92.3 The Fan. An Odyssey Sports Station.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
Now, the Browns announced on Monday they've agreed to trade two-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the LA Rams. The Browns getting in return former Defensive Rookie of the Year Jared Verse, who'd been a Pro Bowler his first two seasons. Browns also get a 2027 first-round draft choice, second-rounder in 2028, and a third-rounder in 2029. Last season, Garrett has set a new NFL record with 23 sacks. Meanwhile, Verse had 7.5 for Los Angeles. Browns GM Andrew Berry, press conference coming up later on this morning. We'll have it for you live, 10 o'clock, right here on 92.3 The Fan. Browns continue OTAs today in Berea. It's going to be the first of four workouts this week. First one since they traded away Myles Garrett to the Rams. The battle of the starting quarterback will continue between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. They are the first of four OTAs. However, head coach Tom Monken may scale things back on Friday in preparation of next week's mandatory minicamp. Guardians back to work tonight, going to start a three-game series in New York. They'll take on the Yankees. Guardians looking to snap a two-game losing streak after giving up 9 runs in back-to-back games to Boston. Joey Cantillo going to get the start this evening. He is 4-2, a 3.57 ERA. Guardians hoping to have Angel Martinez back in the starting lineup tonight against the Yankees. Martinez missing Sunday's game against the Red Sox. Mild strain of his left foot. The Guardians consider the injury day-to-day. Martinez currently leads the Guardians with 9 home runs this season. We will have a reaction to the Myles Garrett trade all day long here on 92.3 The Fan. Coming up at 8:20 with Ken and Anthony. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Andrew Berry press conference at 10. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports 11:40. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk at 12:20 with Baskin and Phelps. And then SI.com's Albert Breer 2:40 with the afternoon drive. All right here on 92.3 The Fan. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time with the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The afternoon drive.
You know what? I'm just so glad that the Haslams have come here and continuously have enriched themselves. And then our football has only gotten worse and more despairing. I'm so glad that this is an equitable trade that we've gotten.
Yeah.
I really am. Good for them.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I'm so glad that they couldn't do this in their home state of Tennessee, where those people don't care about football. I'm so glad they couldn't have done it anywhere else but here, in a place where we live and breathe. Even as I'm talking about trading Myles Garrett, I'm like, I still think they could be a 7-win team because I'm an idiot. That's why.
The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
When the Browns redid Myles Garrett's deal, there were people that suspected at that time that this paves the way for the Cleveland Browns to trade Myles Garrett. Once they did that, it created more flexibility to trade him. And so that was a big deal to a lot of teams. In fact, I had a couple of teams call me and say they're going to trade him. They're going to trade him eventually.
What kind of interaction have you had with Myles Garrett? Yeah, of course, knew that would be a question. I'm going to leave a lot of that interaction between me and Myles. There has been some. There has been some, yes.
I can't speak for Rudy. Myles and I have communicated by text, but I've not spoken to him in person. I can't speak for Rudy.
Just for the record, have you had any face-to-face with Garrett yet?
Myles?
Yeah.
No.
Talks have been going on for weeks. And Monken was giving you guys breadcrumbs throughout this entire process, saying, I've never met him, and I'd like to see him. And this was in the works, and I think both parties are very happy with the trade, Browns included, as they continue to build around the future and get piece after piece after piece until they can drop that quarterback down at the QB1 spot.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Audio courtesy of ESPN. This sucks. It's probably the most prudent move for everybody involved. I'm not going to sit there and deny that, but it sucks. And you know why it sucks? Is because I've had numerous arguments with numerous people over numerous years about, what has Myles Garrett given you? What have you won with Myles Garrett? And I've always fired back with, just imagine what we wouldn't have won if we didn't have Myles Garrett. And then I came to this epiphany yesterday because there were a lot of people going, there were some people who immediately turned and said, good riddance, to hell with them. I'm like, no, but I'll tell you this. Why it sucks is that there's still more waiting to go. There's still more strife and argument to go over the most premier position. We know the position they have to go after. But the real reason it sucks is that, with the exception of 3 years, basically, 4 maybe, if you really want to get technical about it, you've been bad since 1999. But when Myles was here, it's like, we're not good, but we have somebody special. This morning, now we're just another bad team, and we're just another bad team looking for a quarterback. That's all there is. Like there was the Cardinals, the Jets, the Dolphins, just speaking about this year. Like the Raiders had Max Crosby, but he ain't that guy. And we had that guy. That guy was special. That guy won a bunch of awards. And it's like, man, if we could just get the right play from the most important position. He's the second most, but arguably the second most. The second most important position, arguably, if we could just get that one piece, damn it, we'd have it. And now it seems just we woke up this morning and we are still further away than where we were yesterday. And to go further away after going through 10 years of playing around and kind of sort of flirting with being competitive, it sucks. The prudent move, yeah. Probably the common sense move, yeah. It sucks.
He's obviously the best Browns player I've ever seen, and I'd be stunned if the Browns ever have a better player than Myles Garrett. I know if we get like a quarterback that's middle of the road, we'll call them better because they'll have more of an impact on winning potentially. But they'll never be in the same stratosphere as Myles Garrett. Like I'd be stunned if in my lifetime there is a better player that wears that uniform. And what, we get him for 9 years?
Yeah.
Do we have him for 9 years total?
Yes.
Which is, I mean, in today's day and age in sports, I mean, we had LeBron for 7 the first go around. David Njoku, was he here for 9?
Yeah.
That was total of 9 years.
He was same draft
Same
class.
draft.
That was that was a 3-man draft.
You just don't see that like Jose Ramirez. That's like shocking in today's day and age, especially in baseball. You're a small market, you hold on to a guy like that. So there's a lot of emotions because we feel like we know Myles as well as anybody, and we've also traversed the roller coaster of the Myles Garrett from having to have a State of the Union address after the helmet situation when Baker Mayfield went off, on national television about that whole situation. And we all had to choose sides. Are you on Baker's side or are you on Myles' side? And just riding that wave of somebody as talented and as a freak in nature. And then he continued to get better. Like every year, Myles Garrett got better. And I'm like, well, he can't possibly get better. And now I'm hearing people say, well, why can't he get 30 sacks? So people think he might even get better than what we just saw last year, which was, an all-time sack record in the NFL, which was, I thought, really entertaining.
Yeah.
I know I asked people yesterday, I'm like, was it worth it to hang on to him for another year? Because I think they would have gotten more potentially in trade compensation. And people were mixed. Like, they did get to see the record, albeit on a losing team, but it was still pretty awesome to see the record. Yeah. So, it forced everybody to kind of have a value judgment on what this season was all about. But in the end, I was so shocked to hear, like, I was in the airports yesterday, 2 different airports, listening to the afternoon show. It was a great show. I just fundamentally disagreed with the tone of the show, but their tone was mirroring a lot of the fans' emotion. And I mean, I had just taken emotion out of it so long ago.
What time
with
were you
Myles.
listening?
I was able to catch the first hour, and then I was in flight, and then caught like the 5 o'clock hour.
Okay, because the 6 o'clock hour was exceedingly different from the early hours of the show. It was a wild show yesterday afternoon. Where when I tuned in, it seemed like they were helping guys along with this. Like there were some guys just like down about it, like they understood and they just went like, man, they were saying the same thing I just said. Like, this sucks. It's an admission that this team is not going to be good. The only thing I disagreed with what I heard yesterday, and this was in the first hour, was that having Jared Verse doesn't mean that they're tanking. It's like, well, they've had Myles Garrett before and went 0-16. So, I mean, you getting a young quality player, that doesn't mean that they're going to still strive to win games. I mean, some of this is still like, what are they going to be? What are they going to do? Because it's still up in the air. It still seems that Deshaun Watson would be the leader for quarterback, which I got more on that coming up later on in the hour, probably at 7 o'clock. But when it comes to Myles, like I kind of want to know, like I think there was an initial rage. Definitely, I was disappointed with the haul, but I admit something here is that he's the greatest defensive player I've ever seen for the Cleveland Browns, and when it comes to physical attributes and everything, I mean, he's just the best that I've ever seen play for the Cleveland Browns. So naturally, I'm going to overrate the haul that I get back for Myles Garrett. It seemed that to a lot of pundits, 30 was the magic number. Once he got to 30, that was it. And so that was going to take away. Because I honestly, I had fixed a lot to what Elliott Wolf, because he doesn't say anything by accident. So when he's talking about 3 first-round picks, like, okay, there was definitely conversations. That was the asking price to it. And then I was just in flat-out denial because of some of the stuff you brought up. And the reason I was is, no offense to you. Now, I mean, I know we've had knockdown dragouts before over it. But the reason I was is because I had heard it all before. And I'm telling you right now, it was the Rutenberg thing last week that kind of just made my throat gulp, because I'm going, man, this guy, like tornado warning sirens keep better secrets than this. This is not good. And there were people saying I was making too big a deal. I go, I'm not making too big a deal about this. This was a confident guy, and he's humming over here when he's asked a question about Myles Garrett. And that's when the wheels started turning. And then, of course, we were getting texts on Sunday about it, and off we went, and here we are.
Yeah, and in the end, we weren't making a big enough a deal about it. But I have to say, maybe I was divorced from the fandom more than the emotional fans that were calling into the afternoon show yesterday, that I was keeping that at arm's length because I always thought he was getting traded. So you do play a trick. Your mind plays a trick on you, right? Like,
see, I didn't, but I didn't want to believe it. So,
but if in my mind I always thought he was getting traded, I was already starting to separate, the emotional toll. I was trying to do everything I could to avoid any of that, because I never thought Myles Garrett was going to be involved in the iteration of the Browns that would be on the way up. I always thought he was going to be the means to an end. And whether that's just the Myles trade in and of itself with the compensation, if that was going to be used to jockey for position in the first round, or if just by virtue of Myles not being here, does that put them in a better spot to potentially get the number 1 or number 2 quarterbacks, maybe number 3, who knows, in next year's draft. I had just kind of mentally moved on, but maybe that, again, is how I cope with stuff like this.
They'll say differently because, of course, they have to say differently. I mean, we know what this is about. And I got to a point yesterday. I'm just tired of fighting. I'm tired of the arguments. I'm tired of the fights over the guys that aren't so good. I mean, if they thought the quarterback was on the roster, they wouldn't have traded Myles Garrett. So we understand what they feel about their roster right now, and where they think they're going to go and where they need to go. So I'm sure they'll talk up Deshaun Watson and they'll say all these great things, but I don't think that they think very highly. And I think that they'll probably talk up eventually Shedeur Sanders or whoever ends up playing quarterback, and I just don't think they think very highly. So if this is the move to go out and get the quarterback, go out and get the quarterback. Now, I'm not going to sit there and hope that they lose, because I'll never allow myself to do it. It'll never happen. But I as of this moment, and obviously things change in the heat of the day, I find it very hard to work myself up, depending on how they look like in the preseason. And I got to feel it's going to be very hard for me to work myself up about this season, when they go out there and they do lose games. And the defense does take a step back, because Jared Verse is a fine player, good player, dog even, and will probably add that leadership element that we've always been wondering and asking of Myles Garrett that he just has not provided. That I'll never take back. But I don't know how much of a difference it's going to matter in the grand scheme of things. I don't know how bad they're going to be. I don't know how bad they're going to be. But I think that we all know that this is kind of the plan now, is to take a swing at 2027. If we want to talk Sorsby, we can talk Sorsby up and down, whatever. I don't care. But I think that the quarterback conversation is right there in 2027. It's just, how low can you go to go out and get that guy? At least that's how I feel right now. And I mean, I've had 18 hours to sit here and think about it. So that's how I feel right now.
Did you notice, though, there seemed to be a change over the course of the day immediately when the trade was announced? Because you got to remember, we were never truly talking about in any other way than the 3 first-round picks. We were never really talking about a current player. So I think it was hard for people to recalibrate the math on what that meant to get somebody as good as Verse, who, again, we have to acknowledge it's not Myles Garrett. He'll never be Myles Garrett. But somebody as good as him on a rookie, team-controlled contract, like, that's the value part that emotionally fans aren't going to understand. Their mind doesn't go to salary cap mechanics when you lose Myles Garrett. I understand that.
No, but this isn't a knock against Jared Verse whatsoever. My whole goal is, now you got to find the quarterback, so I don't waste any time with Jared Verse. Like, we really have 3 playoff games over 10 years, 9 seasons with Myles Garrett. 3 with the premier pass rusher, arguably, by the time it's all said and done, in the history of the league. That's some tremendous territory when you think about some of the names. And it feels wasted because of the mismanagement, because of the problems, because people got too emotional at times and they made silly decisions. Because, honestly, I mean, you go back to Myles. Myles' hands is dirty on this. You remember the Mary Kay Cabot article years ago. It's not that he's completely clean of that. I think that that's in the back of a lot of people's heads as that's been brought up, the whole me or him sort of thing when it came to Baker Mayfield. And here we are with neither. And Baker Mayfield isn't God's gift, but he sure as hell better than what we're talking about here. So now it's, all right, the Myles thing happened. Hate that it happened this way. Hate that he couldn't finish his career with the Browns. Now, I know I got a good player in Jared Verse. I don't want the same thing to happen to him. Because now we are at liquidation time. That all these other teams have had to go through who have had their quarterbacks. We just haven't had that quarterback. So now the clock is now ticking on Denzel Ward. And yeah, I know. They said no way on Denzel Ward. Yeah, well, now you can't believe anything that they say. So that's always going to be a conversation. He's 29. You're not going to get a first-round pick, but
I imagine that could be more trade deadline.
Probably.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. So,
I didn't like go to bed last night you're ruining the Cleveland Browns or thinking about how maniacal this has all been and Jimmy Haslam this and like we've been paying that price for a while. We've known the Deshaun Watson deal. However you want to phrase it, mostly it was worst deal of all time in sports, whatever you want to call it. That was the disaster, right? I mean, obviously, we all had envisioned the Browns getting a potential top 5 quarterback, pairing him with Myles Garrett, and then winning games. And it just never happened. It just didn't happen, and it's going to go down as a terrible trade, and we'll never know. Would Baker Mayfield have also bottomed out the way he did in Carolina? Whatever. I wasn't thinking about Baker Mayfield yesterday. I heard the afternoon show kept bringing him up, to throw that in another log onto the fire of this is like the worst organization in sports. And like they made one of the most critical mistakes in NFL football history, and they paid for it. And you'd throw this in as the last vestige of that. But you can't deny this was the right move. This was always going to be the right move. And maybe, again, mentally, I was preparing myself for it, but I tried to prepare the fans for it as best I could, that this was going to have to be the way to the other side. And to see by the end of yesterday, most of the NFL people, where I value their opinion, they're like, yeah, this is a good haul. This is pretty good. I saw some people saying the Browns won the trade. Now, I can't go that far. You can't ever win a trade where you lose Myles Garrett.
Somebody tweeted at me that they fleeced them, and I go, man, they're trying to host a Super Bowl again. They're hosting a Super Bowl, and they're trying to play in a Super Bowl again. They got a first ballot Hall of Famer who, if they win a Super Bowl with that guy, is going in as a Los Angeles Ram. You got a nice haul. Again, it felt like to me at the very first blush, because we always overrate our own players, but let's not go using the F word here, guys. Let's not go do that. I mean, there's telling ourselves things to feel better, and I'm the king of that. And then there's just silliness. Let's not go nuts. That's all.
I think the Browns are as well suited as they've ever been to actually do this thing the right way now. And I think, unfortunately, trading Myles Garrett was a part of that. I know people are not going to understand that. How is that the right way to trade somebody who's the best Cleveland Browns football player in most of our lifetimes? But I do think this is the most responsible move you could possibly make. And the fact they got a really good player,
it wasn't irresponsible,
involved in it too, and you combine it with the last 2 drafts, like I think the arrow is actually pointing up. I know that's going to be hard for anybody watching games this year.
Not this year.
No, okay. Not this year.
I was about to say.
I mean, unless Shador, surprises me and surprises a lot of people.
When's he going to play? Week 6? Because as of right now, everybody says the other guy's a leader in the clubhouse.
And I think that might be the best thing for Shador to play Week 6 or Week 7.
Oh, that'll be a discussion we will have many, 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 many times over. 216-474-0092. Have you warmed up to the trade? Do you understand the trade? He's mad about it. He's still mad. There were plenty of people said that. I mean, I had messages from people from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, who were Browns fans, who said that they were done. Of course, that was at 2:30 in the afternoon. I wonder if the tenor has changed a little bit. 216-474-0092. You can certainly hear it in my voice. It's a resignation of what this season is going to be. I'm resigned to know what this season is, But when it comes to the future, it's another chip to finally, for the love of God, find somebody to play that position. The position we've been dreaming about since Bernie. And hopefully we won't mess it up this time. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan. Friends, Ken Carman here for Window Nation. Bye.
not as good as the defense, and that's the reality of it. So, no, I'm not on board. I'm never on board getting rid of really good players. Really good coaches are made by really good players. Obviously, at some point in time, I always feel like you got to draw a line in the sand, and winning's got to be the most important thing, not draft capital and all the words and things I don't really understand, nor do I want to. I know that one thing means something. You got to win games, and winning's got to be the most important thing. And when it's not, you see it. You can see it in front of you. As a coach, it's not real enjoyable to watch, to be honest with you.
That's Coach Lance giving his thoughts and opinions on it. I know that he does not. He's a win-now guy. He's a football coach. Football coaches are always win-now guys. Not too terribly thrilled with it. I think a lot of us, again, I can understand it. It's the same thing where if you have a car, if you have like a classic car, and your kid's got to go to college, and you're going, well, we want to pay for the school. We don't want him to go into Hawk. Fine, we're going to go ahead and invest in the boy. We're going to sell the car and send the kid to college. It sucks, but it's the prudent move. And this sucks, but it is the prudent move of what they had to do. And I denied it. I've stuck my head in the sand, partially because we'd had these conversations before. We'd had these conversations for several years. And when he was not talking to Todd Monken or anything like that, like, I got to tell you, I was like steadfast, like, nah, it's not weird. And you kept trying to be like, Kenny, come on. It wasn't until last week with the Rutenberg interview where I started to think, man, maybe it's different. There were a lot of people texting a lot of things. I should have known. I should have known since one of the teams is in L.A. It's the second biggest market in the country. It's one of the bigger TV markets in the world. There's going to be a lot of people in that area talking, and they were talking. And so you had some of the people who were insiders going, oh, you got to send the eye emojis to some people out there because they had an idea on it. One of those insiders we'll talk to is Tom Pelissero, NFL insider for NFL Network. He's coming up at 8:20 this morning. But I want to know, because I think the first reaction was vitriol, anger about wasted time. All that's there. All that was there. But it has been, I mean, this happened at 1:30 or approximately yesterday afternoon when it was officially made. I wonder if that has changed for a lot of Browns fans out there right now. Because there seemed to be, we went through the emotions, denial, anger, acceptance in so many ways yesterday. And I know that, when you lose a game at 4 o'clock, it tends to be this way in the morning. But you didn't lose a game yesterday. You lost your tremendous player. But you're going to, if you're a Browns fan, you're going to try to talk yourself into the future. But I want to know what people want them to do right now. Like, there's a lot that we kind of have to roll our sleeves up on and get to arguing about here, about what direction this team goes in from here, because we're at a crossroads right now in so many ways.
Like most people think the Browns had, back-to-back really good drafts and finally had the draft capital to access those picks and be able to, pay them off. We'll see. We have no idea about this year, but the arrow, like I said, is pointing up. Did people ever really think prime Myles Garrett, that window was going to match these youngsters? And keep in mind, depending on what you thought about Shedeur Sanders or when they're going to take the quarterback, if they still are going to need to take the quarterback, like, what was the likelihood? What was the probability it was ever going to match the Myles window?
Low.
So that's why I think the organization had to, for once, and sometimes I don't hear this from the organization, but for once I think they had to look themselves in the mirror, not be delusional about their time frame, and I think they finally got there. I think this hit the sweet spot, and that's why I'll continue to say I think the arrow is pointing up. I get that Lance, he has coach in front of his name. When we talk about Coach Lance, he has coach. What you said, Kenny, is 100% accurate. No coach is ever going to be able to see anything other than what's in front of me. I got to coach these players and these position coaches and these coordinators. I've got to coach them to be good now. What's my plan? What's my plan today? What's my plan tomorrow? What's my plan in September? And that's all they're thinking about at all times. That's not a GM's job. A GM's job isn't just to have blinders about this season. John Dorsey talked about that. That was one of the coolest things I thought. We got a window into talking to Dorsey. And it was not just about what's our plan for this year. It's our plan for the next 3 years. And if you're fortunate enough to hold on to your job longer than 3 years, what's your plan for 5? Sean McVay is not thinking about his plan for 5 years from now. It's probably why he sat there stone-faced at the idea of drafting a quarterback the way they did. He probably didn't want to even think about that. Like, Sean McVay almost walked away from the Rams a year ago. Like, he is looking at this day by day. He doesn't have the fortune of thinking about that, years from now. In this case, I think the Browns had to always be thinking about that. And that's why I give them credit for being a responsible organization. You could say, well, why weren't they responsible when they made the Deshaun Watson move? I mean, that turned out to be a horrific move. But now it's about digging yourself out of that hole, and I think finally they have the pieces and parts to do it.
216-474-0092. Let me get the Deshaun in Cleveland. You're first up on the Fan. Hello, Deshaun.
Fellas, of course I was upset at first for about 5 minutes. And then I started looking at it. I'm like, wow. I was always, like we said, I was always thinking about we're getting these first-round picks, but we're not going to get a player. That's why I'm like, man, you're punting on the season when you do that. Do people think that Myles Garrett is the only good defensive end in the league? Because
he's the greatest defensive end in the league. I mean,
there's best, but Jesus, Verse is pretty good. So is a lot of other guys, man. Listen, man, he's a Pro Bowler 2 years in a row, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and we got his we can do with some of his contract, right? We're the ones that control him, right? Like, we're going to be fine.
Well, he's only 2 years in, so he can't even sign a new contract till the end of this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm right about that. Okay.
Yeah, and guess what? You know what? I never wanted to admit this. You guys been talking about it for years. I never wanted to admit it. But how are you going to win when your best player don't, come in, at first he's not there to start it. He's not. If he goes to OTAs next year, I'm going to be looking for that. I'm going to be looking to see.
Oh, for Myles next year in Los Angeles?
Because Lima, I heard you talk about it many times about how you going to win if your leader is not, leading. He's the number one guy, but he's not there at the beginning. But he comes walking in 3 weeks later, hey guys. How is that? How can you have any championship culture like that? I'm sorry, I don't think you can. And you watch what Wemby does at 22? He's getting guys around, and we need that.
From what I know, he is that guy. He is absolutely get in your face lead type of guy, which is something absolutely we need. But there's guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. People were always critical of him. In his era. People were critical of other guys.
He really wasn't a crazy leader like that. Yeah, there's some guys.
You couldn't say. I don't think Myles was an idiot or a dummy or anything like that. I wish he'd slow down on the highway, to be honest, so we didn't have to talk about it every other month. But other than that was the only annoyance I had. But I couldn't say anything to the guy because, I remember what show was it? Deshaun, thank you for the call. What show was it where they showed him, he was on his iPad and he accidentally they were showing him checking his messages or something during the meeting. I don't know if it was Hard Knocks or maybe it was the AFC North Hard Knocks in season. I think it was Road Tested. One of the many shows they've been on. One of the many shows they've been on. And it's what are you going to do? And he goes out there and he gets 16 sacks falling out of bed and then he goes out and he accomplishes a record. He's not a jerk. He is a little bit, I think, misunderstood. I think he's a different guy. There was the whole thing about, you remember when he came out in the draft and, this guy likes piano and dinosaurs. Does he love the game? There is a lot of preconceived notions about a guy like Myles Garrett, and I think that's bothered Myles throughout his career and some of the things that have been said about him. I think he likes to put up stats. I think he likes to go after the quarterback, and I also think that he wanted to play for a winner, and I think he gave 9 years that it was going to be trying to be a winner, and I hate that it's come to this. I wish it was different. I wish that they wouldn't have done what they had done. I wish that they wouldn't have listened to him back in 2021. I wish that they would have just calmed everybody down and brought people to the table so we didn't have to have this terrible suck-ass draft that we had to trade him for later to try to get out, or trade, I should say, that we had to trade Myles out of later so we could try to get ourselves out of it. I wish all those things didn't happen. They happened. So the only thing I can hope now is that the organization has taken the last 9 years, which there has been some success, but has learned from some of it. And hopefully when we get the next guy, because they have their sights on 2027, we look at what happened in 2021 as some of the things of not to do. What happened there? Because we're bound to get a guy who's going to go through some of the slings and arrows of being a franchise quarterback for this football team. And when you haven't had a franchise quarterback since God knows when, well, then obviously there's going to be a little bit more pressure on you. It's the only thing I can hope for now.
Well, and
that's
I know fans don't want to hear anything about a win-win for both teams. Like, I get it. I understand it. Like, you're going to see Myles Garrett on national television more this year than combined over the last 4 years.
And that's part of the reason why I've given up the struggle of this quarterback and that quarterback. No, just go. I'll deal with this year. Go get your quarterback. Just go get it, because I can't sit here and just be with any of the other terrible teams. Again, at least I felt special when I had Myles. I don't need to be with all these other terrible teams while I watch Myles go with the Rams and compete for the next how many years. I don't need to do that. Find me a guy, please, for the love of God. I'm done trying to struggle through it. Just go get the guy and let's figure it out. I mean, Bengals fans, hell, I don't think that they have a great chance all the time, but they always feel they have a chance, so fine. What the hell? Go out and get the guy. Sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I
am frustrated about.
I get that today is going to be the most difficult of days to try to, in any way, have like a view of this, a worldview of this, right? Like this is not going to be easy for fans who are like, at the very least with my season tickets, I'm going to get to see the best of the best do it at their position, at a critical position in the NFL. I totally understand that. But if at all there was a way to try to let some perspective like seep in there, I do think this is a positive day for the Browns. I know that's going to be really
it's
hard.
A positive day.
I do.
Nah, the positive day, I don't know when the next positive day is.
So you would not have made this trade?
No, I would have made the trade, but it's not a positive day.
Then how can't you feel that way?
Because you let go of a first-round Hall of Famer in the trade.
But you're admitting,
it's not a positive
you're admitting you would have done it.
It's a necessary day.
Ken Carman's finally admitting.
It's a necessary day.
We did hear Ken Carman.
It is a necessary day.
After you called all this silly for the last 2 years, any of this
great.
talk. You do admit you would have had to make the trade.
Well, yeah, because obviously there was things that I didn't want to know about. So now that I know all the facts here, or I've listened to all the facts here, yeah, you got to make the trade. So they made the trade. They made what I'm assuming is the best trade possible at the best time, even though I'm sure we'll hear about something that they could have got last year or something like that.
We got to talk about.
Okay.
Because Myles kind of controlled that.
But Anthony, like, I'm not going to sit there and call it a positive day because it hasn't played out yet. I got a very good player back in Jared Verse. I got to see what they do with all these picks. If we end up in 2 years and we had the premier young quarterback in the NFL, and we're all putting our feet up and smoking cigars and laughing, well, I'll smoke a cigar, Owen will smoke a cigar, you'll watch, then I'll call today a positive day. Today is a necessary day to try to get to the positive day. No, I'm not pulling any wool over anybody's eyes, because this is the type of thing historically that if I call it a positive day, people remember on the internet and 3 years from now going, you called it a positive day. Look at the terrible suck-ass quarterback we got out of it. Ken, is it such a positive day? No. It's a necessary day, yes, but it ain't positive.
But you just to bullet point it, you would have made this trade.
I mean, yeah, I basically had to.
I think
it's either that or cause a huge hayru in there. I wouldn't have done that. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on the Fan.
92.3 The Fan.
years is this guy going to get? It's 7 years. We got one playoff win. When's the next one coming? Come on. You don't trade these good players. Oh, a window.
Oh my gosh, why did we get rid of him? Seriously, why? Tell me.
Everyone is saying we didn't win with Myles Garrett, and that's the problem. I don't hear enough people talking about holding the management accountable and the bad decisions, and this isn't a Myles thing, this is a management thing and a Haslam thing.
Now I'm going to have to watch Myles sitting courtside at a Clippers game?
The one before the last one, that's the one I agree with. Like, what do we win with Myles? And this isn't going to help in the near time, and I hope that it helps in the long term, but I don't know if it is. That quarterback is still a big mystery. All I know is they obviously don't think anything of their quarterback room. You don't trade a player like that if you thought anything of your quarterback room. Don't give me that. You didn't trade him planning to compete and fly high this year. I mean, hell, we said he won, basically walking around on the field, he won the Steelers game because Aaron Rodgers was so scared of him. Which, by the way, you can leave a message on the Coming In hotline. It's on the leave a message button, which should be called the Coming In hotline. I don't know why they haven't changed it yet, but that's not anybody here's fault. Over on the free Odyssey app, which is absolutely free. You can listen to it live. And right next to that listen live button is that microphone with the leave a message. You can get it within 30 seconds if you can. Owen gives you about 30 seconds. It's an Owen rule, and I like the rule. I think it's a good rule.
Probably not going to listen if you go much over.
Yeah, if
well,
it's
you heard how quick those were.
Yeah, if it's like 2.5 minutes, he ain't going to go. But you can get it in 30 seconds. Owen will get it in, and that's fabulous. Or do his damnedest to get it in.
Yeah. There is an interesting part of this in all the discussions over the last few years. Before we knew that Kevin Stefanski was going to be out, but the organization, the structure of the organization, sans D. Podesta, was going to continue. We wondered whether or not Jimmy Haslam would ever sign off on something like this, which I think is very, very interesting. Because you heard one of the Coming In hot callers was like, who's going to be held accountable? Your GM is still here after the Deshaun Watson move. He's still here. D. Podesta's gone. Your coach is gone. But the organizational structure is still kind of there. And if anything, it looks like your GM has he's been elevated above the rest. Andrew Berry, after all these years, is the guy in power, and the owner signed off on that. What do you make of that?
I'm glad you asked me that question because now I don't use him as this Rasputin type figure like I did the other guy, like with D. Podesta. I mean, God, when Louis Riddick is wondering, going, man, D. Podesta's gone, all of a sudden these drafts look good. That's Louis Riddick saying that, for crying out loud. It ain't just me being me. And that's a guy who's in the NFL. So when he says it, it makes me go, oh, geez, like this. Okay, now I got people that I trust saying these things. So now my mind starts to go. Maybe the idea man is gone and now Andrew Berry's taken over. I think that they're trying to atone for it. Now, I got to tell you, considering that he's still here, it leads me to believe that he still would be here next offseason. But now you have to ask a lot of trust to your ownership because you can go out there and be terrible and they could just use you as a fall guy, which might scare the bejesus out of me because then you got a new guy coming in. And we are at a critical mass. This is why, guys, this is not a positive, quote unquote, day. It's a necessary day. And yes, there is a difference. Like, I'm not mad at the trade. I'm not mad. It's a necessary day. It was something that had to happen. I'm not mad.
I thought the Ken Carman that I've been dealing with over the last 2 years, that anytime we bring up a Myles trade, you would lose your mind.
Because I didn't think they were going to do it.
You'd get red face. You'd say, this is not how you turn things around. This guy's the best. You don't replace guys like this.
You don't.
This is silly that we even talk about it. And then we trade him, and you're like, well, this makes sense.
But I'm
surprised to hear you say that.
Because I've accepted the reality of it. You will not replace Myles Garrett. There is no replacing him. Jared Verse is a great player. He'll be a Pro Bowler again. I don't know what Pro Bowls mean to anybody anymore, but he could be all pro, and he could be a great player, and he's young. He just ain't going to be Myles Garrett. And I don't want to sit there and compare him to Myles Garrett because I don't think they're the same type of player. And one guy's a one-on-one, and the other guy's a really nice player in this league. But that'll be unfair to Jared Verse. But that's the whole point of what I'm saying. You don't replace that guy. And I did think that there was going to be a lot of fans who are going to be upset. I think some apathy might play into this. Well, that's what the picks are for. Because if you do get the right guy out of this trade, then they'll come back and they'll be happy. You're going to take it on the chin this year.
But
that's what I'm saying. I'm going to rationalize this. So I'm not mad at the trade. It's necessary. But damn it, you got to go out and you got to find that QB. And that QB is a giant question mark out there. So no, I'm not excited. I'm not mad. I'm looking at it going, okay, you've made another decision that you've been forced to make because of this. How are you going to climb out of it? Now, let me get back to the whole Andrew Berry thing for a second. If Andrew Berry is removed from office after this year, because how many wins do you think they're going to have now without Miles?
I think they're probably going to be in the neighborhood of 4 or 5.
Okay, if they're in the neighborhood of 4 or 5, which you had 5 to 6, and now so how much was Miles really worth to you? Mm-hmm. If I'm in the neighborhood of 3 to 5, somewhere in there, without Myles Garrett, then I want to know, because you can have good football players, young good football players, and still take it on the chin. We've seen it. If you're somewhere in that neighborhood, will Jimmy Haslam get rid of Andrew Berry to satiate some bloodlust of a bad season?
Now, finally, I say no. I didn't think I would say that.
Well, all right. I think a lot of people on June 2nd agree with you in so many ways. I don't know if they will on December 2nd. Because it's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to live through it. And if he gets rid of that guy, then who's the next one they bring up? Is it Glenn Cook? Is it Cat Hickman? Is it somebody within their organization? Because if it's not, if it's an outsider, then you know how this goes. They see the Browns, and they need to build the Browns in their image. And then any of these guys that you've been excited about, they go, and it takes us further away. Like, you can take the quarterback. If you get the number 1 overall pick, you know who they're going to take. Like, it turns out the Myles Garrett thing all over again, where Foghorn Leghorn could have drafted Myles Garrett. Okay, well, Daffy Duck could draft Arch Manning if they get number 1. I don't think they're going to get number 1, but I think that they did this so they can get close enough where if a team that has an injury, or, if the Raiders in there, but they still like Fernando Mendoza, could they make a move and jump up? Could they be close enough where they could make a move with a team where, that quarterback, and I put Dante Moore into this category. I don't think that he came out in the NFL this year. I don't think he wanted to play for the Jets. And do you put your situation forward and go, hey, we're close enough. Do you make this decision? Does the Manning family make this decision, or does Dante Moore make this decision? Or just naturally, are you the 2nd overall pick and you take one of the 2 best quarterbacks and we live our life? Like, that's probably the most possible thing because it's happened so much. The most realistic thing because it's happened so much. But, yeah, Andrew Berry still being here, that's surprising. It's absolutely surprising. But I don't want my bloodlust satiated just for the simple fact of having to pay for it. This was a necessary thing because of the mistake that you guys signed on to. I believe Andrew gave him the idea. I believe they signed on for it, and now they all deal with it when it comes to the Deshaun Watson trade. And now you have to find a way to dig out from under it. I thought Jason's article yesterday was great about it. Now you're finally trying to dig out of it. But until you get that guy, and we know he's that guy, no. I'm not going to sit there and pour sugar on this situation and tell everybody things are going to be okay. Because they've made moves like this before, not with Miles, not with a player like Miles. They've made moves like this before, and it's been bad. And it's ended up even worse. 8:20, Tom Pelissero going to join us on the show. Andrew Berry has a press conference at 10 o'clock. He'll say a lot of words. I don't know how many of them you'll believe. But Andrew Berry will have a press conference at 10 o'clock live on The Fan. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, we'll get to you guys coming up. And he might have helped, but Jim Schwartz being here probably wouldn't have kept Miles. I'll explain in 5 on The Fan.
This is an Odyssey Sports Minute.
place, and we got one playoff win and 2 playoff appearances, and now we're back in the cycle of suck.
I think when fans dreamed up this trade, they thought 3 first-rounders, you really start to rebuild this thing and you go from there. The idea that it's 1 first-rounder, Jared Verse, and then a second and a third, it just doesn't seem like enough for a lot of fans.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
8:20 this morning, Tom Pelissero going to join us, NFL Insider, NFL Network, 10 a.m. Andrew Berry, the press conference after the Browns have traded away Myles Garrett. Did you see the statement that Andrew Berry wrote?
Yes, I did.
I've seen presidential obituaries that were shorter. That was long, man. That was certainly like the Myles Garrett. Boy, they were having. It was the power of the pen between those two, man. Damn, Sam.
They paragraph off.
They wrote the hell out of each other, man.
Wait,
Whoa.
the power of the Chat GPT pen? Because I saw speculation on that yesterday coming from Myles, which Myles seems totally capable of writing his own statement.
I got to tell you, I bet Myles had something in the works last year, and he might have just had a saved document.
Oh, you mean it kind of the same way that we think Varden and Jason Lloyd had their obituary written after the Raptor series and then just had to have it on ice?
There's been some wild ones that are still in the save folder for those guys. For Jason especially, holy potato salad. Some of them that are there, he's told me they're wild. But yeah, Andrew Berry at 10 a.m. We'll hear from him. He'll say a lot of words, none of which you'll really believe after all this stuff. I mean, but that's part of the game. Denzel Ward's future has been brought up. We'll bring that up with Tom Pelissero coming up at 8:20. We know that many media outlets have reported that it's a hard no, quote unquote, about trading Denzel Ward. But I mean, after Myles Garrett, I mean, anything's on the table. So it seems that at some point, probably by November, that any reasonable offer, depending on what they are, will be certainly considered. 216-474-0092. I've had several people, and I want to get the phones here in a second, but I have had several people go, well, what if Jim Schwartz was here? If a team like the Rams that definitely have the machinations of a Super Bowl in a city like Los Angeles where he seems to, I'm sure he'll have a good time, but if a team like the Rams came a knocking, I don't think that Jim Schwartz being here would have made a damn bit of difference whatsoever.
Well, I didn't think about that at all because obviously that was part of the case I was making, that I could see the likelihood that Myles Garrett wanted out was he was lobbying for Schwartz, and then Schwartz doesn't get hired, and then we never see Myles again, except at a Cavs game. So
yeah,
we never saw him again.
But
what would it have been? Because remember, he had the no trade clause, so he still could dictate. Now, it's hard to believe he wouldn't want to go to a team like the Rams, who are almost assuredly going to be in the Final Four, going to be in the NFC Championship game at the very least, and now on national television almost every other week.
That's what I'm saying, is that you have a team that is definitely going for the gusto. I know the Ty Simpson draft didn't say that they were, but they are absolutely going for it when you go out and you get Trent McDuffie and you go and you get him now. But you're aiming for him. And if you're listening to it and your agent comes to you with it and says something like that, you can be as good of friends with Jim Schwartz as you want, but this is an opportunity to go out and still get paid and still win. So I don't believe that he would have made a difference, because I think he would have looked at, Myles, he's a businessman in so many ways, and he'd look at it and go, who's your quarterback still? I like Jim Schwartz as much as the next guy, but he'd probably sit there and go, who is your quarterback? So you're probably not going to win much more than what Kevin did. And it's just another year of my career where now he can go out and he can truly get it all. I think that this was, the more I think about it, the more I think that these wheels were set in motion at the end of the season after he completed the record. We're not going to go to the playoffs anytime soon. I'm only going to be getting older. I've set a record now here. There's nothing more I can do with this football team. You've paid me all the money you can possibly pay me. We've been to the playoffs a couple of times, but we're not going to go again anytime in the very near future. At least that's probably what Myles believes, because that's why he signed on to it. And away he went. And I think that it could have been Jim Schwartz as head coach. It could have been his Holt High School head coach, for all we know. Could have been anybody from his history. And I don't think that would have mattered to Myles Garrett. I think that this was one of the situations where only good teams were going to come to call. A good team like the Rams came to call. It was probably way earlier than any of us thought. We'll ask Tom Pelissero about that. And there was just me where I just refused to hear anything about it because I didn't want to hear anything about it because it's more waiting around. That's all it is to me. It's more waiting around for us to be competitive again.
Do you think Miles ever went to the Browns and said, I'd like to be traded again after last year?
I'm sure that there's been a conversation. Yeah. Why?
Would that well, I only asked that because, like, based on what I heard in the afternoon show, that this was a disaster, this was terrible that they would ever do this. Like, would you change your mind if you knew that Miles had this time very politely behind the scenes as opposed to what happened a year ago?
Well, this
where
seems oddly specific. So there seem to be some oddly specific places that he probably would want. I mean, if they really wanted to, like, there would definitely be a team out there that I think would give up even more than what the Rams did to go get Myles Garrett, but he's got to agree to it. So I think it was probably done very quietly, going, hey, as long as we keep this all quiet here, we can move about our business.
He had a no trade clause.
Yes. So he wasn't going to sit there and go with any of these other teams. So you're not going to put him out there and go, okay, Miles is open for business. No, because he's not going to play for the Raiders. Okay, he's not going to play for the Cardinals. He's not going to play for the Dolphins. Not going to play for any of those teams. He'll say no. He was going to play for a contender, and this is a contender that was in an area that I imagine he likes. That's why he said yes to it, and that's obviously a contender that can contend for a Super Bowl this year and gives him now the full bounty of everything that has a possibility of an NFL career. Now he can do the Reggie White thing, possibly win a championship here. He's not as old as Reggie White was, I don't think, but I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember. I was a child when that happened. He can do the Reggie White thing. He can compete for a championship. I gotta wish against him because I don't want to have that late of a pick. I got to look out for what's best for the Cleveland Browns. He's helped do what's best for the Cleveland Browns, but I'm sorry, this is business. And so I have to root against the Rams.
Yeah, you're going to sit there in the playoffs and root against them?
If he gets to the Super Bowl, depending on who he's playing, like if it's the Steelers and the Rams, I'm going to be rooting for the Rams. Yeah. I'll be rooting for the Rams against the Ravens. I'll probably be rooting for the Rams against a lot of teams. Because at that point, 31 and 32, I don't know if it matters. But if we're just if they struggle a little bit, have some injuries, Matt's back locks up a little bit, like, okay, maybe I get picked 24.
Well, yeah,
all
things
right,
change
wild
then.
card round, maybe I'll root against them. But if they get to a Super Bowl, on God, I've enjoyed great play with Myles Garrett. I'm not going to sit there and root against the Rams.
What's interesting is the only thing holding anybody from ever saying that he's the best to ever do it is because he's done nothing in the playoffs. And he's only been in 3 games. I think he's got 1 registered sack. Like, we haven't gotten that opportunity. And now, like I said, he's going to be on national television every week. Yeah. And then once the playoffs start, what I'm wondering is if Browns fans, if you ever want to tell your grandkids, like, we saw the best to ever do it, if he goes crazy in the playoffs and then starts putting up dominant numbers, I thought it was funny yesterday, people were noting that Verse has much better playoff numbers than Myles Garrett. Well, he's had the opportunities, right? Like, he's had more of the opportunities. They actually play with leads over there. I just wonder if any fans are going to be like, yes, that is now validated. I've been telling people forever he's the best to ever do it. And now we actually will get a chance to see that in the playoffs. But how bittersweet it's going to be for another team.
The best to ever do it, that's obviously that's still up there. I think that I would put him up there with Bruce Smith, with Reggie White, with those guys. But maybe he's still off that map to a lot of people across the country.
What did he do the last 5 weeks of the season last year? Didn't he put up a whole season in 5 weeks? Can you imagine if he does that in the postseason? Can you imagine if it's the NFC Championship game and he puts up 5 sacks and then he comes back and you can't rule it out, right? You can't rule him out doing that in the Super Bowl, and then in the Super Bowl he has 2 strip sacks, recoveries, maybe runs one in for an actual touchdown, and he's MVP of the Super Bowl. Can you imagine how we're talking about Myles Garrett compared to how we've talked about him?
It would suck, because I got to root against him. Now, if he goes and he wins a Super Bowl, he becomes Saquon Barkley because he's early enough in his career. Like, if they win it this year, I imagine he would be with the Rams for the next 5 to 6 seasons. And, I mean, again, Saquon Barkley, if he goes to the Hall of Fame, he's going in as an Eagle. Myles Garrett will be going into the Hall of Fame. And if Myles Garrett wins a Super Bowl with the Rams, I think it's a Rams party at one of the country clubs down in Canton. I don't think it's a Browns party. I think the Rams pick up the tab. I think he goes in as a Ram. And that's going to be tough to deal with, That's going to be real tough to deal with. That's why, again, today is not, I disagree with you. I don't mean to bicker with you. Today is not a positive day for me. It's just a day to hopefully get to a positive day. And the positive day is we have that quarterback, and I ain't got to worry about any of that other crap. I just got to worry about whether or not he's going to play well on Sunday in January. Whether or not, like, I'd love to have if we end up with the next Josh Allen, fine, I'll deal with it. If we end up with the next Lamar Jackson, fine, I'll deal with it. Like, having conversations about whether or not that guy can get over in the playoffs, fine. Because this today or yesterday was an admission of what they think of their quarterback room to me and where they think they need to go. And I think a lot of people can accept that. And so they need to go take the next step and find that guy. Dante Moore, I hope that he would come here. I hope that Arch Manning would come here. If Lenore Sellers has a bounce-back year, please. Like, I want the options there. I want all these guys to play well this coming year because this is what this is for now. And you cannot deny that unless somebody completely surprises you. Which one is more likely to happen? It's see at the draft in April. 216-474-0092. All you guys, and with Myles Garrett's being gone, what is the real point of starting Deshaun? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, that coming up on The Fan.
Well, I can
at 8:20 with Ken and Anthony, Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, Andrew Barry's press conference at 10, Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports 11:40, and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk at 12:20. There with Baskin and Phelps. Then SI.com's Albert Breer 2:40 with the afternoon drive, all right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
That's a big-ass day on The Fan today. Tom Pelissero going to join us at 8:20 this morning. I want to know what Denzel Ward's future is. He can say no all they want.
Yeah, what do you think he thinks about all this?
Well, we'll find out with Tom Pelissero coming up at 8. I don't know if we're going to find out what Denzel thinks. We'll find out a little bit more with Tom Pelissero at 8:20. Again, Andrew Barry's going to have his press conference at 10. Charles Robinson, Yahoo, 11:40 today on Baskin and Phelps. Mike Florio, a man who at one point argued with me because he wanted Myles Garrett thrown in jail. He's coming up today at 12:20 on Baskin and Phelps, and then at 2:40 Albert Breer. Absolutely a must listen. You have to listen to Albert about that. Which I did get several texts from you know who over to the city to our east. We'll get to the phones here in a second. Which it was, are you ready to admit it now? And I'm like, ready to admit what? He goes, you know nothing was said. I go, oh, no. I firmly 100% to my grave believe that something was said that night.
Now Pony thinks because he's on a new team, you won't have the allegiance, you won't justify all his actions.
Yeah, that's what he thinks.
His heinous act that night.
Yeah. It was right up there with Marty Jannetty going through the barbershop window. I mean, that's what it was. Again, Florio and I argued about he wanted criminal charges pressed against Myles Garrett. He wanted him thrown in jail. Cuyahoga County Jail he wanted him put into that day, that morning. Bizarre morning. And I don't give a damn.
Some would say he spent 9 years in Brown's prison. So
Myles That's true. Well, no, since the trade, it's only been 5 years in Brown's prison. 4 years in Brown's prison.
Yeah.
4 years. There you go. And now Jared Verse is here. I don't think he's going to have the same results as fat ass by a nose coming to Brown's prison, but, you know, it's going to be an experience to say the least. We got to make it nice on him. I've seen the memes. We're going to have to be, guys, we got to, through all this being said, let's be open and hospitable to Jared Verse. He ain't Myles Garrett. Okay, fine. But he's still a damn fine player. Let's be positive about Jared Verse here. Let's not do the whole Danny Shelton thing. Let's not do the whole Jed Wills. He ain't going to be like Jed Wills. He's going to work his ass off. I know that.
When will he actually meet the head coach?
I'm guessing sometime this week.
Oh, will he?
I'm guessing certainly next week. It's mandatory minicamp. He's got to be there.
That would be nice.
Good God.
Let's get started on the right foot this time.
216-474-0092. Great. No, I got to get the Joe in North Canton. Hello, Joe.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Joe. Go ahead.
Hey, so I just want to say why I'm still upset about it.
Okay.
I understand why they had to make the trade. I actually, in normal circumstances, I'd probably be all for it. I like Jared Verse, nice young player. My problem is the elephant in the room, Deshaun Watson. You know, you can trace everything that's happened back to that trade.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just lost probably the greatest player in franchise history going back to that trade. And they're probably going to turn around and start him now.
Well, I didn't catch the last part and don't repeat it. You're saying it's going to feel like it's disrespectful to the fans?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad you brought this up because it's what I wanted to get into, Joe. I don't understand the point of playing him. Well, you know what? I'm a little emotional, so I'm trying to see this from the big perspective. It's like, hey, I'm not in the locker room now. Like, I guarantee Coach Lance would be very upset with what I'm saying right now. He's a coach, right? Okay, Joe? Like, I know that he has the responsibility to the other players, but me and you, and I think maybe I can bring Lima along on this. We're going, hey, you're not going to win a lot of games this year. We all know why you made this trade. What the hell's the point? Why am I playing this guy that nobody wants to see?
Right.
You know? Now, I could try to spin it the way that Lima has. Joe, thank you very much for the call. It's a great point. I could try to spin it the way that you have there and the way that it's kind of been brought up. And by the way, it's not really a spin. It could be the right way. If you've changed out your offense, maybe the guy who's the second-year guy, maybe it is better for him to sit for a second and learn and see where it is. But I think for a lot of us, it's like, hey, we're in evaluation mode now. I don't have to evaluate Deshaun Watson. There's nothing to evaluate. I'm just counting the days now. When it comes to Shedeur, probably not much there now. Again, I think that this is also, because of this move, an indictment on their quarterback room. But I'd rather see him. I'd rather see somebody who might give me some sort of a future, has a chance for some sort of a future compared to Deshaun Watson. Because what's Deshaun Watson going to do? If he ends up playing decent, are you going to trust him to give him a contract? Or are you just going to trade more people and try to move up in the draft? Are you really going to do that? Are you going to be fooled again? And I've always brought up the thing, does he even want to be here after this year? Like, these are all things that we have to take into account. And now that you've made this trade, I'm going, what's the point? In the big picture, what's the point? Because you got to do what you can to get the quarterback here. He just gets in the way and muddies that water. Shedeur Sanders, he might muddy the water, but I'd much rather give him a chance to see where it is because he's younger. He's more fun to watch. He's more fun to talk about. I think he's more fun to argue about. Now, some people on the internet would definitely disagree. There's been some nasty things thrown out by people at the internet. I get that, but I just find to have more fun. And if I'm going, man, if I'm going to be here and we're going to deal with this season where we're not going to win a lot of games, and they just told us we're not going to win a lot of games by this action, I might as well have some fun watching a guy out there, should I not?
Yeah, I mean, unless they just think he stinks, right? Unless they just think Shedeur
think he stinks
and is incapable of picking up the offense,
which is a tough pill for me to swallow.
And the odds are against him.
I've denied myself a lot this winter. I denied the conversation about Miles, so maybe I'm denying everything about Shedeur Sanders. I'm not above examining that.
It's a different conversation. I'm with you that it would just make sense. Just play the kid, like play Shedeur.
Oh, you agree with me on this for the most part?
I think we've been saying this pretty consistently for a while now.
Okay,
but for Todd Monken to resist that, what does that tell you about Shedeur? Like, does seem pretty crazy that you wouldn't start him. Unless they just think he's flat out not ready or not good enough, or a combination of both.
Well, 216-474-0092. Let's see where Greg and Hudson. Congratulations on all your success, Greg. You're next up on the Fan. What say you?
Thank you for taking my call, gentlemen. I'm very disappointed in this move. I don't think that great organizations, even good organizations, trade away first-time ballot Hall of Famers. The idea is to acquire talent, build, with that talent, develop that talent, not to trade it away and be a farm system for the rest of the NFL. This has been in the making for years. This is what we drafted Garrett. This is what we were supposed to be doing. I mean, he landed in our lap for crying out loud, and they've wasted 9 years of this dude's, career. And now I just can't root for this team anymore. Now I'm 65 years old. I've been to Red Right 88. I sat in that game. I sat at the drive. I've seen how good organizations, run their operation. This guy Haslam is so far away from being a good owner. It isn't even funny. He's just here designed to be a cash cow for himself. And I'm going to leave you with this.
I mean, I feel like that's all the owners these days. I feel like that's what they're doing.
Okay, yeah, but he's a Browns fan, so it's not going to justify it to him. Let me hear you out, Greg. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to be short and sweet. If I'm not mistaken, Haslam owns the Bucks now. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, he is technically they do a weird way where they basically rotate who's in charge.
Voice in what goes on in that organization.
Yeah, technically right now he's the one in charge.
Okay, there you go. That's what I'm getting to.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so in 1 year, this guy who's owned the Cleveland Browns and now the Milwaukee Bucks is going to trade away two first-time Hall of Famers in two different sports in the same year. That's, I think, pretty close to being worse than the Babe Ruth trade. Nobody knows about it, but you read about it.
Well, how
bad this owner is.
If I'm going to say anything, now, I mean, I know what Lyman just said, but if I'm going to say anything, Greg, thank you for the call.
Like, you'd be stupid not to trade Giannis.
Giannis was not his doing. When you're the owner of the Browns and you make the trade for Watson and Watson ends up blowing in your face, like you answer to that. The Giannis part of it, that's just added fodder for everybody else. That's just the roll of the dice. Yes.
But if Giannis ends up in Cleveland, does Greg consider it a wash?
Oh, that's fair.
That's for a different day.
That is for a different day.
And that, of course,
does Greg even care about basketball?
Surfside.
Yeah, Cavs Conversations brought to you by Surfside Hard Iced Tea. I ask you to please enjoy that Surfside Hard Iced Tea responsibly. Well done. And get that in there. That's good producing right there, brother. 216-474-0092. Yeah, no, I kind of want to ask Greg, I mean, if he's 65 years old, does he find a new team or does he just call it a wash and that's it? Like, what does he do? There are guys who are wondering about that because you are not closer. That's why it's not a positive day. I got to get the quarterback
But
first.
you think he's not going to watch that fan that just called in, as passionate as he was? You don't think he's going to watch if these young guys are looking really, really good?
I don't know Greg personally. I live next to Hudson. I don't live in Hudson. Sometimes I travel through Hudson. If I see Greg on the road, if I end up shaking his hand, I'll ask him. Maybe some will be forgotten by the time football season comes around, and he might be back in. We'll see where it goes. Jared Verse is a fine player. You know, he could still have a nice season. Rick in Cleveland Heights, you're next up on the Fan. Hello, Rick.
Good morning.
Hi, Rick.
So I was thinking about, would it just have made more sense to maybe make this pick before June 1st and maybe get the 13th pick? I think I value that more than the, first round pick that we ended up getting.
What do you mean by that, Rick? I'm sorry. I'm struggling following along on that one. Go ahead again.
I just feel like the 13th pick for this draft that they just picked that the Rams had, should we have just made the move before and had gotten that pick instead of...
Do you think you would have gotten... Do you think that pick would have been better than Verse?
I would have preferred to have gotten maybe that and Verse, or maybe, yes, that or Verse.
Well, see, I want to ask that. Well, Tom, I don't think that they were asking about players. Excuse me, I'm thinking of Tom Pelissero coming on at 8:20. Rick, I don't think that they're asking about players. This is what I want to ask Tom Pelissero. Exactly how far this was in works. Because remember, they asked the NFL for that 5-year pick thing that was going on. So I'm going, were they trying to work out something with the Rams at that point? Because remember, did Sean McVay have did he not have a comment about that Browns situation? I thought Sean McVay made a comment, or Les Snead made a comment, or like the Rams were like the only team that were willing to hear out the 5-year plan that the Browns had brought up with the picks. Now, again, my memory's fuzzy. I've had a lot of bush light between.
You are right.
Okay.
So it was the GM was for the 5-pick thing. Sean McVay was against it. Yes.
Les Snead was for it. Okay, so I want to know how far along this was in, because that would have been before the league meetings. The league meetings were April. April. I'm trying to. It might have been April. Like, I'm trying to remember the timeline here, Rick. So
it was the same place where Todd Monken missed the coach's picture because he got a haircut.
Yes, I know where, but I wanted to know when. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for the call.
12:30.
Is it a pretty sweet haircut?
I know what happened in Dealey Plaza. I just need to know what year it was. John.
Does it matter to anybody if just Miles didn't want to be here? Flat out didn't want to be here. Does that matter to
Did he want to be here the year before?
To any of the callers that, they're calling Haslam the worst owner ever, whatever. There's plenty of years in now, and I don't think most fans, they don't seem to want to chalk one up in the favorable ledger for the Dome. But with that said, what?
Nothing. I'm listening to you.
He cared? Like that caller, do you think he cared about the Dome playing in a world-class facility? Do you think that caller seemed to care?
No, I think that caller just wants to win. That's all. He doesn't care about a Dome.
But that's what I mean. Like that I could see if you're calling Jimmy Haslam the worst owner ever, but he's going to open up this brand new facility where you're going to be able to enjoy it year round, whatever.
Okay, that's in 2029. That guy cares. He's 65 years old. He cares about now.
And I'm saying he doesn't care about something like that. So that's not going to be in the positive ledger.
I got to tell you, and people brought up that they're planning on the Dome or planning on this team being good in the Dome. They don't make me feel any better about it right now. I don't know if this is the time to have some great big existential conversation about the Browns ownership.
I totally get that. Does it matter to callers like that if behind the scenes Miles was like, I don't want to be here. I'm not showing up to anything? Is that what you want too? I mean, like, would you want to keep that player?
I think if we found out that, it might make that man, Greg, feel a little bit better about it. If you're talking about the caller said he's done, like, yeah, maybe that might make him feel a little bit better about it, but probably not. Because I think a lot of people, when you ask for a trade and then you go on Radio Row, we kind of know what you were here for in the first place. But when you turn in 23 sacks, I think we all agree with it that that's what happens. Again, this is where I draw the line where it's like it can't be this great day of a new direction of the Cleveland Browns, because I think there's a lot of people who are just like, yeah, man, we're bad, but we got somebody who's real special. Now we're just one of the other bad teams. But until they find somebody who's good, they're going to hold them accountable.
When I hear farm system for another team, I think that normally applies when you trade a guy like in year 5. This has been 9 years. You've had Miles for 9 years. What is the expectation when you take a player of how many years you're going to he owes you?
Not anymore.
I feel like 9 is more than most.
I think Rick's looking back on it as a formerly 56-year-old man and now a 65-year-old man going, where did the time go? Now you're looking at retirement dead in the face. You've had only 2 playoff appearances with this tremendous player. And it's not just,
I get that part of it.
It's not just Miles.
You don't like have the rights to him for life. Like
No.
I never feel that way.
But I think we're within 24 hours of the trade. He's not going to feel great about the trade when you let a great player go who we all expect to be watching in Super Bowl. Is it 61? Nah, I lose count. Super Bowl 61 coming up in February. Like their odds went from 15-2 to 6-1 like the minute after the trade happened. So everybody thinks that this is going to be a team that hosts the Super Bowl and plays in it again coming up here in next February. So that's not going to make Greg feel any better while we're sitting over here arguing on Mondays after a Browns loss and then on Tuesdays about who had a good Saturday. Myles Garrett's getting ready to go to the postseason. Myles Garrett's getting ready to go to the Super Bowl. While you and I are arguing about whether it should be Dante Moore, Lenoris Sellers, or Julian Sane or somebody else, Myles Garrett's doing all those things that we once envisioned with Myles Garrett.
I guess maybe the difference
He's going to
is
be upset.
I just assumed they weren't going to be good this year. And so I will have more excitement, to be honest, following the Saturdays. And I thought they were always going to lose. Did that caller think they were going to win this year with Myles?
I think that caller is upset, and that he's upset because he's probably older than us, and they're not any closer to winning. So now that Greg has to wait until he's 66, 67,
I think these 68. Are the moves, though, that
I don't know what health Greg is in.
I think these are the moves that you have to do to put yourself in position to be closer to win. Just keeping Myles Garrett. And then what happens if he injures his knee in week 5? Then what do you have? Then you don't even have any value, and you don't have the player.
Tom Pelissero, 822. I mean, that's rational, but I don't think it's worth to be demeaning to the caller. I got to hear out the caller. Coming up in About Last Night, which is in 5 minutes, does this QB belong in the Hall of Fame? An A.J. Brown trade and some pot shots being taken towards the Browns, but because they're no longer here, I think fans are taking them a little bit personally. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
92.3 The Fan.
I mean, it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they moved the meeting. I didn't miss it. I was just trying to get a sweet haircut.
How it is when you win in Cleveland, man. They love you. When you lose, whew, it's the way it should be.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. He couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
That sounds really good, but I'm not 6'5", and I don't have the athletic ability to play in the NBA.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
The Philadelphia Eagles have traded all-pro wide receiver A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots for a 2028 first-rounder and a 2027 second-round pick. And I give it about 6 weeks before he starts having temper tantrums because Drake May isn't getting him the ball enough.
That's an Eagles fan who's bitter. That's what that is.
I was annoyed with him. And you guys realize this? He's going to see the Eagles 2 different times in August. They're going to have a joint practice.
Were you annoyed with him? He's helping you win a Super Bowl?
He didn't help us win a Super Bowl last year.
Oh. It's always what have you done for me lately?
Dropping passes against the 49ers.
Oh, what a loyal fan you are. Lord.
I am not.
I mean, we still sit there and make arguments for Odell Beckham Jr., and we were his last 1,000-yard receiving season here, by the way. More on Odell coming up in moments, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's obviously been a very, very talented but mercurial wide receiver. I don't know that I am as in on him as the Patriots were. What was the compensation again?
I think it was a 2028 first and then a 2027 fifth.
I don't know, Kenny. Would you have done that if you're the Patriots?
No.
For this dude, he's good. I'm not saying he's not good. It's not like I'm sitting there going.
He's not at this. Hold on.
It's going to be 29.
There you go.
When the season starts.
Like if this is like the end of it, because there was always a wonder, like, well, okay, when do they fall off? There's very few guys who age kind of gracefully at that position. Like Hines Ward, credit where it's due. I felt like he aged more gracefully than a lot of guys. And that's saying something considering that team's history with wide receivers. But like if he completely falls off the face of the earth.
It was at 30 for Cooper.
In 2027. Like
Cooper.
if he has but if he has a good year this year, that's a great example to bring up. Like Amari Cooper, great teammate, great player. But if like he has a good 2026 and falls off the face of the earth in 2027, that 2028 is going to that's going to be a terrible lump in their throat. Now, he helps their prospects now, and it helps them try to stay away from the Super Bowl hangover. But, I mean, he's a great wide receiver. It's still going to be an issue of how great is he going to be here after the age of 28 years old. That's always going to be a big issue. It seemed to be the worst-kept secret, and because it was the worst-kept secret, I wonder if they were willing to give up a little bit more just to get him. Vrabel, the whole thing.
Or was there a tax at all on the Rossini stuff? Do you think there's a chance that just they're doing anything they can to distract
well,
from all of that?
You're quite a takesman today, aren't you?
I wonder if they would have had to give away as much had, Coach been able to stay out of the headlines.
It's not a horrible idea. It's not a horrible idea. Who's the general? Howie Roseman calls him up and goes, hey, you really want this guy to get the heat off you? It's going to cost you a third. What? Hey, I'm not the one who's alleged to be getting pictures taken all over a boot de hoos. It's going to cost you another third.
Yeah, wait. What if Roseman
I await your answer.
What if it was part of blackmail? Like, we've been tailing you the last few years.
Jeez!
I got
reckless speculation.
I got more pictures. Here it is in an envelope.
Not just screwing, Mitch.
Oh wow!
The type of things, oral and whatnot.
Russell Wilson is stepping away from the NFL after 14 years to become a studio analyst for CBS Sports, effectively taking Matt Ryan's job. He has 10 Pro Bowl nods, a second-team All-Pro. He's 12th all-time in passing touchdowns, 16th all-time in passing yards, 12th all-time in wins. Is he a Hall of Famer, yes or no?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about the firm. Who is a Hall of Famer?
Russell Wilson. Is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't think so.
Bring on Richard Sherman.
Say all
ask
those
him.
numbers again, though, because I don't think he heard those.
He
numbers.
is
No,
16th
do
all-time
not
in
go over
passing
the numbers
yards.
again.
Yeah,
There was a lot of numbers.
Not numbers.
12th all-time.
Do you think he'll be a good broadcaster?
No, he's the corniest person ever. He's Mr. Unlimited.
I'm interested. I thought Robert Griffin III was good in the booth. I did. I really do. I know that he's kind of weird in his own right, but I'm like, nah, I thought he was pretty good in the booth.
I just wonder if the corny Russell Wilson is gone now because NFL's over. Like him playing in the NFL is
All right,
over. If we actually get real insight.
Let's see here. Now, you said he's 16th.
Yeah.
Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer. Stafford's a future Hall of Famer. Roethlisberger, Rivers, Owen.
I say no. I say no.
Matt
But he bought
Ryan.
himself 5 more years.
Matt Ryan.
No.
If,
So, okay.
if Wilson gets in, Ryan needs to get
Because this is the thing. What if Russell Wilson is really good at being in the booth and he becomes a staple of NFL broadcasting? Then that actually helps him years from now. You got to consider it. Just saying.
Carly Teller, the wife of former Browns offensive lineman Wyatt Teller, posted a meme yesterday of a burning house, probably in reference to the Browns organization. What do you think she knows? What does she know about Andrew Berry in the front office that it's kind of making her do this?
I think that she's just a person who's probably upset that they, I think she feels that they did her husband wrong.
But she got crushed by the Cleveland fans yesterday.
That's the issue of it, is that when you do that, fans are in a very fragile emotional state. And so when you post that meme, I understand you're taking a shot at the organization. And many Browns fans take a shot at the organization. But in that moment, they feel as if you might be taking a shot at them as well. And I love them. I think they're great. I wish Wyatt nothing but the best in Houston. I mean that sincerely. I was like, could we not now? Could we just not now?
Now, I will tell you this. My wife has been enjoying her TikTok videos opening up her $5,000 to $10,000 purses. She said she thought that was a lot of fun, seeing her.
$5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, seeing her
Was she Dustin Fox?
buy those nice purses and open them up. And so it's got a lot of people in Cleveland go, wow, wish I could have one of those too. That'd be awesome.
Those bags?
Yeah, those bags. That'd be nice. Some good items there. Good items.
Does Sarah want a $5,000 to $10,000 bag?
Let's be a little facetious.
Oh.
Not really her style.
Oh.
Thank God.
Interesting.
I can only afford 2 of those.
You know whose spouse
done in
doesn't
that department?
disparage? Whose spouse doesn't disparage their former team city? Jamie Hoskins. Another reason to love Reese Hoskins.
Oh. I didn't know who that was.
We get it. You liked him as a Philly.
And that's it for About Last Night.
I mean, Reese Hoskins was a fine player, but is he like your kid? Like, as a kid, you love him, like the player who's kind of like middle of the road.
He represented a change in the organization from where they were really bad, and then he came and hit like 18 home runs in 60 games in his rookie year, and then they started to become like a halfway decent team.
Okay, that's fair. Like, I have an affinity for Brooke Jacoby, so it's like, okay, I get that. That's fine.
He also bat spikes, so that's pretty cool.
So what?
He bat spikes. You've never seen the bat spike?
No.
Look that up, Ken.
8:20, Tom Pelissero going to join us on the show. 10 o'clock, Andrew Berry, his press conference. I want to know from Tom Pelissero whether or not Denzel Ward is going to be a Cleveland Brown here past the season. And Todd Monken can't do just whatever he wants, but might be a free pass after yesterday for the Browns rookie head coach. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
XT.
this is an equitable trade that we've gotten.
Yeah.
I really am. Good for them.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I'm so glad that they couldn't do this in their home state of Tennessee, where those people don't care about football. I'm so glad they couldn't have done it anywhere else but here, in a place where we live and breathe. Even as I'm talking about trading Myles Garrett, I'm like, I still think they could be a 7-win team because I'm an idiot. That's why.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
20 minutes away from Tom Pelissero, NFL Insider, NFL Network, Andrew Berry. 10 a.m. His press conference is coming up. We got insiders. We got general managers coming up all throughout the day. Going to be fantastic stuff. I got to ask Tom, how long has this been in the works? We had a caller earlier, and he was upset. And I thought, well, gosh, you go with the 5-year thing that they tried to put out the 5 years of picks instead of 3 years of first rounders, things like that. When they brought that to the league, and Les Snead was the guy who agreed with him, oh yeah, that seems to be doable. I'm like, okay, well that was back in March, so there was definitely conversations back then. So yeah, Lima, in some way, I know you're not going to, because even though, you might be. It's a positive day. You end up being right. I buried my head in the sand the entire time. Which there are some, it's different in person than it is on the internet. This is why I really got to tell you, when it comes to the Shador stuff that you end up reading on social media, it's man, some of this stuff is just not in reality. And social media reactions are brought to you by
Scheib & Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Because we still got some people who are upset as fans. You had the one guy calling in from Hudson who's 65 years old, and he's really upset about this. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's a prudent move. Okay, it's what probably a general manager should do. I don't think it's a move that you make if you think you're going to win this year. I had a back and forth with somebody about that. But also, I think there were a lot of people that are upset because they look back in the last 9 years and they go, well, what was it all for other than me wasting my time as a fan? And then when you had them, even last year, it's this season sucks. And we got this great player who's setting records and possibly chasing history and doing great things that makes us feel special. So there is a hit. Eventually, yeah, the smoke clears and you understand, all right, we got to move on eventually. And we got a 2027 first round pick. It's what we were aiming for. We got another first rounder in there for 2027. We got obviously Jared Verse is a fine player. And then we got the extra picks that we can always use for more if we need them, right? Or we could just use them for picks of players. So that's fine. That's all well and good. But yeah, in the initial reaction, it's well, now we're just another bad team that is also searching for the quarterback. And it really crystallizes everything about what this year is. There's still I can't believe there's still some people who are saying on my internet here that this has no effect and they're going to win 10 games. If they felt that way, they wouldn't have traded Myles Garrett. No. So I think we got to live in reality here.
No,
but that's the example.
That was the chance that they would have kept Myles Garrett and hoped that they could make a Super Bowl.
That's the example that I'm giving you. This is the internet reality as opposed to the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that they clearly don't feel that they are very close. They haven't felt like they were very close. The moves that they made until we found out did not resemble that I told you before, and I was dead ass wrong about that. Now after the move that has just been made, I felt the moves that they were making was not of a team that was getting ready for 2027 instead of 2026. That I thought that because they had only fired Kevin Stefanski, that they felt that they were a lot closer than what a lot of us felt, and they were going to try to compete. Well, now this certainly centers everything now, doesn't it? And it opens up the conversation about Todd Monken in the future, because I don't think you make this move saying to everybody, and I'm sure Andrew Berry is going to say he has full faith and confidence in the quarterback room today at 10 o'clock, which you can hear right on the Fan. I don't think you make this move if you have full faith and confidence in your quarterbacks. A team that has a quarterback went out, and they might only have him for another couple years, if that, because he's older and he's banged up a lot. But a team that has a quarterback went out and made this move for Myles Garrett. You don't believe you have this QB. You wanted that first-round pick. You got it. It's not a free pass for Todd Monken. He can't do anything that he wants out there. He can't act like Freddie Kitchens. He's going to have to be organized. He's going to have to try to win. He's going to have to do a lot of good things. But you almost give first blush. We're not in the heat of battle yet. We're not in September. You kind of want to give Todd a free pass?
Okay, the term free pass I might have a bit of an issue with.
If he goes 0-16,
But, yeah, and there are a number of gaffes, right?
17, I should say.
And then press conferences, and you add all that up. That's a little different. But am I going into the year with zero expectations from him? Almost. I mean, I do expect to see the offense, take a step forward.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, what did they score, 16 points a game last year?
It should not get worse or stay the same with the amount of assets they've used on the offensive side of the ball.
I think Streetsboro Youth Football scored more points per game.
So, good coaching. So
I'm not on the offense.
So free agency.
You think TJ?
Free agency, the draft, the assets over the last 2 years that they've used towards offense, and then you hire an offensive coach, you decided to go with this coach over Jim Schwartz or whoever else, then that's where I don't give a free pass. I do expect to see their offense take a step forward.
All right.
But in terms of wins and losses, I might give more of a pass on that.
How do you view the quarterback situation with him?
What do you mean?
In terms of do you I felt like you kind of came over to my side. It's if we're looking at this as an evaluation year, what the hell are we playing Watson?
Yeah, what's the point of Watson? I have made a case that it does make sense for Shedeur potentially to come off the bench 4, 5, 6 weeks in. I think that could be a better spot for him.
We also are paying attention to this Brendan Sorsby situation, which is we didn't get a whole lot of clarification about a lot of different things yesterday. He was pretty damn adamant, Todd Monken was, about Brendan Sorsby and that whole situation. It seems that any questions about Brendan Sorsby possibly being picked up by the Browns, according to what Todd Monken says, might be a lot of hot air.
Not at all. I mean, it's not even come across my desk. I don't think we're in a position to want to go down that road. That's my opinion. That's not Andrew's. And that I like the quarterbacks that we have. I think that's a slippery slope when you go down that, irrespective of talent, right? In terms of the situation he's put himself in. We all know what that is. He put himself in that situation. And we've seen in other sports with players that have been banned for life from playing in professional sports. I think that's a slippery slope to go down that road. Again, that's a question for Andrew and for management. But from my end of it, kind of a tough angle to go down that road and think that that's going to be your franchise quarterback if he's ever eligible to even play in the NFL.
All right, as a person who doesn't want to take on that experiment, makes me feel better. All right, now, if I'm thinking like Andrew Berry, I'm going, don't say that because I kind of wanted other people. I don't know how really, it's been a long time since we've paid attention to the supplemental draft. Isn't it basically a blind bid where you give up, it's all right, I put in a third-round choice.
You talk about
we're going to have to ask Pelissero about this. Yeah, like a blind auction. I put in a third-round choice, and hopefully I have the highest bid.
Kenny, I've never heard an existing head coach in the NFL
that was strong.
Talk about a potential draft pick like this, supplemental or not. I don't think I've ever heard that. Have you? Well, maybe there have been some instances. I've just never heard that. Certainly not a quarterback.
Well, I wonder if Todd's thinking more.
I have never heard that before.
I wonder if Todd's thinking more of the common sense issue. I mean, Todd was pretty open with us about how he feels about the ponies, and he went full into detail, ain't in the facility,
right?
Ain't in the thing, none of the other things. I like the ponies, and that's where I keep it on. And I wonder if he's sitting there going, the story about betting on Indiana 40 times while he was a quarterback, while he was one of the quarterbacks with Indiana. It's what are you doing, son? And it's that's an addiction.
Yeah, what does it mean for your character, too? We're trying to wrap our arms around that situation.
And Todd Monken, I'm sorry, but Todd Monken look at it and go, yeah, I feel bad that you're addicted, but I can't employ you because of that.
And then,
it's just so strong to hear.
And then when I say that I've never heard a coach talk like this, is there any chance whatsoever that the head coach has been instructed to really throw people off the scent since it is an auction? Since the rest of the league...
Then he's got to sit there and answer to it, dude. He took shots at the guy for gambling.
Right. And then if you got him, you're like, yeah, we got him because the rest of the league didn't think we would commit a second-round pick to him, and we got him, and they didn't. We win.
Hold on. You would say, I love our quarterbacks that we have. I don't want to talk about other quarterbacks. I love our room. I'm confident in our room. Shador and Deshaun, they're picking up the offense great. I'm not focused on anybody outside of our room. I'm only focused on our room. You don't sit there and be like, yeah, the problems that he has, we're not ready for that. Like, you can't do that.
But you don't think...
No, they got to be out on Brennan Sorsby now.
But don't you think...
Which would be the most Browns thing for them to pick him up, and then we...
Right. And hey, who knows? Because obviously we saw the look on Sean McVay's face when they took a quarterback, and there was a lot of debate about that. So maybe GMs really can operate independently of the head coach. I'm just saying that the way that the supplemental draft works, it behooves you to throw teams off the scent.
That is really throwing a team off the scent.
That's the whole goal, is to make sure no teams think you're in on a guy. And I've never heard a coach talk like this about a prospective quarterback that could come out, that you could have, that some people, according to Albert Breer, would be in the top 5. Why would somebody do that? Maybe he was instructed to do that. I don't know.
You were instructed to go that far?
The furthest I've ever heard.
That's nuts.
That's
crazy.
And that's how the supplemental draft works, is that you don't want other teams knowing that you like a guy.
Play that again. Can we play it again?
Yeah,
I know we don't have much time.
Reckless speculation.
Play that one. And we'll play this one that's going to take us overtime.
I'm sorry.
We really need to get out.
It's
Not
true.
at all. I mean, it's not even come across my desk. I don't think we're in a position to want to go down that road. That's my opinion. That's not Andrew's. And that I like the quarterbacks that we have. I think that's a slippery slope when you go down that, irrespective of talent, right? In terms of the situation he's put himself in. Like we all know what that is. He put himself in that situation. And we've seen in other sports with players that have been banned for life from playing in professional sports. I think that's a slippery slope to go down that road. Again, that's a question for Andrew and for management. But from my end of it, kind of a tough angle to go down that road and think that that's going to be your franchise quarterback if he's ever eligible to even play in the NFL.
Boy, you really had me full. That is, if you were Andrew Berry, you'd go, yeah, I told you to kind of deny it. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
Lord.
Now, he said earlier that he would do whatever's in his contract. And if it says in his contract, deny.
He basically sounded like Joe Pesci at Casino when he's telling him he's going to put the heat on. Just tell me if you gambled away the money. It was that bad. All right, Tom Pelissero, you want to ask him about that coming up in 5 minutes? All right, Tom Pelissero, 5 minutes. How long was this all in the works? Because if you go back in some of the tea leaves here, like this has been a long time coming, I'm sad to say. Ken Carman and Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on that free Odyssey app. Window Nation and Window.
Garrett trade all day long here on 92.3 The Fan. Coming up next, Ken Anthony joined by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, Andrew Berry's press conference at 10, Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports 1140, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk 1220. They join Baskin and Phelps. Then SI.com's Albert Breer 240 with the afternoon drive. It's all right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
All guests appear on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Wright Hotline. Let's get right to it. Tom Pelissero joins us, national reporter, insider, NFL Network. Tom, thanks for joining us this morning. How long was this in the works? Because we're trying to read some of the tea leaves here about the Myles Garrett trade. And it's like, well, okay, the Browns wanted to move, then do the 5-year plan thing. They wanted to bring that to the league table. And Les Snead was the one who kind of took up for him. Yeah, I could see that being something that passes. And here they are, the Rams and Browns making a trade with Myles Garrett, and the Browns getting a pick and Jared Verse back and several other things.
These conversations really, go back to after the draft, and the Rams, who have explored a lot of different things in terms of, they went down the road with A.J. Brown before they broke off those talks. They had pursued various pass rushers. They felt like this was a need for them. But, when you're talking about Myles Garrett, that obviously supersedes any need. This is the best defensive player in the game. There's a price tag that comes with that. It really got going, I would say, about 3 or 4 days ago. Once Jared Verse was part of the trade and the Browns were not going to do it unless he was, by Saturday morning, it became pretty clear that Myles Garrett was going to be a Ram. There's a variety of reasons that the deal could not be finalized until yesterday, including the cap ramifications. But for the Browns, honestly, I would say this, and I understand there's probably a lot of fans who saw the news yesterday, who are waking up today hoping that was all a bad dream, that Myles Garrett is no longer a Brown. For where Cleveland is, and I know that everybody's probably sick of hearing about 5-year plans and things like that, but this is the reality. The Browns are not winning the Super Bowl this year because of Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett requested a trade last year. If he had had his way, he would have been somewhere else in 2025. And even when they did the contract extension with him, it's not like that suddenly solved all the issues that Myles Garrett himself had voiced publicly. So if you're in for another challenging year, you're starting over with a new coaching staff who's got a bit of a clean slate. And this year is going to be about, seeing, do you have a potential quarterback? You're rolling with Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders for the moment here. In all likelihood, you're probably drafting one in 2027. Loading up with this type of a package, a combination of a player and picks that the Browns didn't really think they were going to be able to get for Myles Garrett at age 30. As great as he is, as long as he has been, one of the best players in the game and coming off the single-season sack record, Jared Verse, who, if you traded him in isolation, would command a 1 and more as a 2-time Pro Bowl player who's under team control for the foreseeable future, plus next year's 1, plus a second and third rounder, plus the cash and cap flexibility that moving on from Myles Garrett gives you. To me, and this is just my opinion, it makes a lot of sense for Cleveland. Time will tell what they do with those picks, but from a value perspective, I thought Andrew Berry made out very well here.
Could they got more if they would have traded him last year?
It's hard to say because, I'd have to go back and remember who all was in that trade market. I would just say, look at the other pass rusher deals that have gotten done. Micah Parsons went for 2 first-round picks to a Packers team that is probably not going to be drafted very often in the top 20. I would say Myles Garrett commanded more than that. Max Crosby, before he wasn't traded, was traded to the Ravens for 2 first-round picks. Again, probably not top 20 picks. Myles Garrett commanded more than that. There have been other top pass rushers, guys like Brian Burns. I'm not putting these guys, especially, in the category of Myles Garrett. This is a one-of-one situation. But, for everybody who said, and, they got to get 3 first-round picks, I would argue they did. If you do the math on this trade, Jared Verse is going into year 3. So you've got him, if you include, option and franchise tags, you got him under team control for the next 4 to 5 years. You're probably going to want to do an extension sooner than later with him, but he is a really, really good player who's going to fit with all the young guys that you brought in last year. They'd probably have the best draft class in the NFL in 2025. We'll see how this draft class works out. They've got additional capital, 12 picks now in the top 3 rounds in the next 3 drafts. To answer your question, it's just hard to say because they didn't, frankly, listen last year. They just weren't willing to do it with Myles Garrett. They dug in. They weren't going to trade him. You'd have to, go back, and could they have brought it to a head and run a bidding war? Sure. I don't think that the compensation would have been, certainly not far and away better than what they got here. It might have looked different. Even if it might have looked different, it would have looked different if you trade him before this past April's draft, just because you're talking about getting picks now. But I would, argue for anybody saying you should have gotten 3 first-round picks for him, you did. Just if you add up the value on this trade, I would say you got that. And, oh, by the way, you already know effectively one of those first-round picks is Jared Verse, who that's not a lottery ticket. That's not a draft dart throw. That's a guy you already know is a really, really good player, even though, the odds of you finding the next Myles Garrett with any of this are pretty slim.
Tom Pelissero joined us on the hotline, had a lot of this news yesterday. So what are people saying around the league? What are your contacts saying about what seems to be on its face a very NBA-like creative type of trade here for Andrew Berry?
Well, I would say that I think that it makes sense from both sides, and that's the main thing that I've heard. People were, I think shocked to a degree yesterday that it was real because, you guys know out there have been Myles Garrett trade rumors for like 5 years, and you just kind of, you shrug at it and whatnot. When I heard that it was beginning to pick up, I had the same instinctive reaction, but also knowing it did make sense. If you were going to trade Myles, you do it right now because the value is not going to go up in future years for a guy who's 30 years old. So for the Rams, this is totally on brand for them. They've gone sort of cyclical here where there was that initial, bleep them picks phase of trading for, the Jalen Ramseys and Matthew Staffords of the world. Then over the past 2 years, they swung the opposite, and they had one of the youngest teams in the NFL and a ton of draft picks, and they hit on guys like Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner, and they built this thing up. Now, because you've got that young, cheap workforce, you can afford to swing back again and say, we're going to go and, trade away some of those future picks to try to win right now with Matthew Stafford. It certainly puts a different lens on the Ty Simpson pick. Now that they don't have a first-round pick next year, effectively it goes back to what they were saying, which is they didn't think they were going to have a whole lot of opportunities to have a pick that high and get a guy they think can be the next franchise quarterback. But that was not, to write the obituary for Matthew Stafford in L.A. It was to set themselves up with a guy who was going to need time to develop while also going all in on Stafford. Again, what I would tell you is that they were in on a lot of different things, and they always are in this offseason. Myles Garrett was not the only, high-profile star player that they looked into. He was not the only high-profile pass rusher they looked into. They land him. It creates problems. I guarantee, particularly in places like San Francisco and Seattle, there was a recalibration yesterday of, exactly, all right, we're going to have to deal with this guy a couple times a year. It's not a sea change. You're talking about a division that's got the defending Super Bowl champs as well as a team in the 49ers that made a run last year despite their entire roster being hurt. So it makes sense for the Rams. They feel like they've got a window. They're capturing it in the Browns' minds, and as people look at this, effectively you're sending the message that we know our window is not 2026. Our window is 2027 or probably 2028, 2029. Go back again to that draft from last year. That's the group that you're building around, that you hope for years to come are going to be able to take you there, being able to add, again, additional draft capital going into a 2027 draft that is regarded as very talented, very deep, and very good at the top of the quarterback class. We've all seen this before, and sometimes those things don't play out. Guys go back to school, they get paid in NIL, they don't play well, and their draft stocks, dips as a result. But this group seems like it's really, really good. Maybe Shedeur ends up being the guy. Maybe against all odds, Deshaun Watson, who's barely played football for the past 5 years, comes out and plays lights out. Failing those scenarios, you're probably looking to draft a quarterback now not only do you have 2 firsts in 2027, but you've also got those additional future picks that you also can use as trade chips. If you don't have a top, the number 1 pick or a top 5 pick, and we'll see how good this team ends up being, you've at least got the capital to try to make a move and get up there in 2027.
Tom Pelissaro with us on the hotline. So obviously the Browns chose, or Jimmy Haslam chose, Andrew Berry over Kevin Stefanski this offseason. But are you a little bit surprised that Jimmy, who's dealing with another superstar potentially wanting out in another sport with Giannis, are you surprised he signed off on this given just how the rebuilds have gone over time here in Cleveland? Is this something that Andrew Berry had to talk his owner into signing off on?
I'm not surprised because the tenor of everyone's statements changed from last year to this year. Last year it was, no, we are not trading Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a career Brown. He's going to be 1 uniform player headed to Canton. This offseason, it was, well, he's still on the Browns. We don't really want to talk about this. Well, Myles Garrett is a Brown. It was just softer, and you could tell that, there was at least an opening here. It's not as if they intended to trade him. It was not a guarantee that they were going to trade him. It was Myles Garrett, frustrated with, just years of the ups and downs? Absolutely. Was he happy that Jim Schwartz walked out of the building? No. However, there was a situation where Myles Garrett could have come back and played for the Browns again. It just made sense. The organizational reset started last year with some of the moves that they made and, stocking the cabinet in terms of the young players that they were able to add. If you were going to trade Myles, doing it now as opposed to in a year where, listen, he could go and have 30 sacks. We know Myles Garrett. He could have another monster year, and maybe it sustains there. But, the modern history would say when you're 30 years old, going on 31, you're not going to get better, right? You may stay on top for a while longer, but, Father Time is undefeated. The decline is coming at some point. So trading him at the absolute height of his powers was in the best interest of the Browns if they were able to get a fair level of compensation. You're right. Jimmy Haslam made a choice that I think was, frankly, best for Kevin Stefanski to go and get another opportunity. He gets a raise to go and coach the Falcons and get a fresh start there after being 2-time coach of the year, but also going through a lot of challenges in terms of the quarterback position and elsewhere with that roster. And, Andrew Berry gets sort of a reset for himself to be able to take this thing into the next era of Browns football. They put together a good staff. Obviously it was a winding process to get there, but Todd Monken is a good, solid football coach. Mike Rutenberg is not a guy that, a lot of people probably know a ton about, but Rudy is one of the highest energy assistant coaches in the entire league. He was going to be a coordinator eventually. He might be a head coach someday in the league. They put together the right group of people here just to try to change the energy in the building. And sometimes you need that. Again, last year's draft class was a really, really good one. That's the group that you're building around. Now you've got, a bunch of extra capital to continue to build this thing out. If that's the vision is not just, hey, our goal is to have Myles Garrett retire in a Browns uniform. No, it's our goal is we're moving into a new stadium in Brook Park, and we know the fans are ticked off, and there's a lot of people with number 95 jerseys who are still going to wear those into the stadium this fall. But we need to settle the quarterback position. We need to build this thing the right way. We got to compete in a division with Joe Burrow and with Lamar Jackson and with the Steelers now building it with Mike McCarthy and whatever that looks like as they move forward here. If you don't do bold things, you are going to be stuck in similar patterns. No one has ever accused the Browns of not being bold. This is another bold stroke, and we'll see how that works out, not just in 2026, but over years to come.
Tom Pelissaro joining us on the show. If Jim Schwartz were the head coach of the Browns, would Myles Garrett still be here?
It's impossible to say because the Rams still would have come with this type of a trade offer. Dynamics would have been different. There's no doubt about it. But again, the goal is not let's make Myles Garrett happy. If you wanted to make him happy, you would have traded him a year ago. The goal is how do you win football games? How do you build this the right way for years to come? And again, we'll see. Todd Monken has not been an NFL head coach before. He seems to have the right mentality for it. I kind of like the fact that he seems to have some truth serum to him where he'll just flat out tell you exactly what is on his mind all the time. Whether it's about, his own roster being ticked off about interceptions, what he thinks of Brendan Sorsby, all that stuff. Like, I kind of enjoy it. Kevin Stefanski's a really good football coach, but everybody knows, Kevin was very, very cautious publicly. Andrew is pretty cautious publicly. Now all of a sudden you got this bull in the china shop every time he's got a microphone in front of his face. I find that fun. Schwartz would have been kind of the same type of a thing where Jim was, we all know what Jim's personality is, and he's hyper aggressive. I do already have those thoughts going through my mind of, okay, so next year the Rams win the Super Bowl. Chris Shula, their D coordinator, gets a head coaching job. Is Jim Schwartz the Rams defensive coordinator back with Myles Garrett in 2027 in L.A.? It's fun things to think about. These are 5 steps ahead at this point. It's a hypothetical. It's really hard to say. Would Myles Garrett have liked Jim Schwartz to stick around in one capacity or another? Absolutely. It didn't happen. That was just one more thing. Jim Schwartz was the coordinator last year when Myles Garrett wanted out. That would not have magically, cured everything here.
All right, Tom, 2 more quickly, and we thank you for your time. Denzel Ward, is he next?
It doesn't seem like that's the plan, but certainly something's, got to happen with Denzel Ward. Contract extension would certainly be a possibility. He's one of the top corners in the NFL. I don't think that you want to go with a completely bare cabinet here. But, listen, there's the main thing you got to understand is there's not many players in the NFL who there's not a price that they can't be had. You found that out yesterday with Myles Garrett. The price was Jared Verse and 3 draft picks. Denzel Ward is certainly tradable, but it doesn't seem like this is now, all right, it's a complete, we're going to trade every veteran asset that we have. Let's see. Circumstances change this time of year. Injuries happen. Teams have draft picks that don't pan out. They get more and more aggressive. If you start to see, we don't have the guys that we need at this position. We need a corner. Let's see. I don't think that it's happening today, put it that way. I don't think that that's a priority for the Browns. But certainly, again, there's not many players in the NFL who cannot be traded. You just traded Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward is certainly not untouchable, but I don't get the sense that they're urgently just trying to shuttle him off here.
Final one. Todd Monken was pretty anti Brendan Sorsby yesterday. If he hits the supplemental draft, are the Browns interested, or are they just moving on with these quarterbacks and then on to possibly 2027?
I don't know that Brendan Sorsby is real interested in the Browns after those comments, basically saying that it would be hard to go down that road with a guy who, has had a gambling addiction and those types of things. Remember, if he does declare, and we'll get word sometime in the coming days on his eligibility, if he does go into the supplemental draft, he can choose what teams he's going to visit. He can choose kind of how he wants to navigate this process. If you're Brendan Sorsby and his agent, and you read those comments, you're probably not going, let's send the guy to Cleveland. It's a waste of time. I mean, Todd Monken has already said where he stands on it. Obviously, Andrew Berry has a say in this as well. But with that, coming draft class in 2027 and all the capital that they have, I would certainly understand if they just say, we don't need to add another quarterback to the room right now. Let's see what the guys we have in-house can do and keep all our options on the table for 27.
Tom, you've been very gracious with your time. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, guys. Tom
Pelissero, NFL Network, on the Wise Heart Right, We Make It Right, call Kyle Wright hotline. I want to go with you about the Sorsby stuff. And Denzel Ward, I know they said hard no. You just heard what he said. There's no point in him being here. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app.
See website for details.
If you can't listen to us live, we've got you covered. You can hear the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima, Baskin and Phelps, an afternoon drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin as a podcast. Full hours, full shows. Find it all on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
So what the hell's the point of Denzel Ward still being here? Tom Pelissero was with us. We asked him, whether or not it was in the Browns' future to hold on to Denzel Ward. He kind of said no. You can hear more of that interview, 923thefan.com. Also, you can always use the rewind function on your free Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration. I know that they said hard no. Okay, you said a lot of hard no's on a lot of other things. What the hell would that have to do with anything? Could I get a second rounder for Denzel Ward?
Why couldn't they get a first if a team is desperate?
29.
I just
cornerback, injury history.
I realize that. You just see some
But you
desperate...
said some wild stuff today. I don't know if you get maybe you do get a first rounder for Denzel Ward. I'd just be very, very, very surprised to get a first rounder.
Have we not seen some just incredibly desperate teams over the years, right for the deadline, say, all right,
I
especially if
feel
he's starting
like the
in
Rams
lockdown?
do that with Jalen Ramsey, right?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if we've already made this decision, and that's fine, and I got to look into the history, some people have brought up, well, you make the deal now with Miles because you never know what's going to happen in the season. Well, I mean, no offense to Denzel. He's a great player. He hits harder than his body probably wants him to hit. You can't guarantee that he's going to be
for him to hit.
Exactly. You cannot guarantee that he's going to be available to trade at the deadline. So I think you got to look at everything right now. I mean, after you trade away Miles, I think it's all up for grabs. And I mean, Denzel Ward loves the area. He's from the area. Clearly, there's an affinity to be here and to come back here probably after it's all said and done. But, I mean, to me, Myles Garrett being traded is an admission that we ain't going anywhere this year. And Denzel Ward, I mean, if Myles Garrett deserves to play in the playoffs, does Denzel Ward not deserve to play in the playoffs? I mean, we've jumped through some hoops. Myles hasn't been a bad guy, but we've jumped through some hoops for Myles. I mean, what hoops have we had to jump through for Denzel Ward? Nothing. Nothing at all. Wonderful person, on, off. He drives the speed limit, the whole thing, man. I got to worry about him. And you remember what last year, he didn't seem to be, was it Radio Row where he didn't seem to be too thrilled about being here if Myles Garrett wasn't going to be here?
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
So I can't imagine he's any more thrilled now. Now, maybe he's in a different place where not going after the playoffs isn't very important. I can't imagine it is, or it isn't. So I don't know why the hard no comes out over Denzel Ward.
Now, he also did not show up to OTAs. However, he was accessible.
He was adamant, yes.
He has also been talking to the coaches.
Yes.
Very different set of circumstances,
Clearly
it would
different.
seem.
But it's nothing. Obviously, I don't want to let go of Denzel Ward. I didn't want to let go of Myles Garrett because I didn't want to face the truth of what this season is. But now if we're facing the truth, we might as well face the truth headlong. If I can get another second-round pick in 2027, why wouldn't I get another second-round pick in 2027?
And our fans, let's be honest, as much as we want to talk about, hey, he's been in Northeast Ohio and then, pit stop in Columbus, and he's been a fan favorite. Do people go to games to watch corners not named Deion Sanders? But do they really? I know you made a case for Grant Delpit in the secondary.
Well, I'm a terrible example because I would go to games to see Denzel Ward. And I love seeing Denzel Ward down the stretch. When Aaron Rodgers, I thought, was going to saddle up and score one more time in nitty-gritty time, and they threw in his direction, and he knocked away both those balls. I'm like, I don't know why you're throwing at 21, but that's all pro right there. You ain't messing with that guy. And I was so excited to see that. And I go, man, that's hard to replace. I mean, he's better than Joe Hayden. No offense to Joe. He's the best cornerback that we've had since 1999, but we just traded the best defensive player we've ever had since 1946.
Yeah, so everything's on the table.
It should be on the table. They should be taking offers for him. I texted. I just want to make sure because sometimes I don't think these things through when it comes to the cap. I believe they are able to do it with the cap and take whatever hit that they have to take, whatever that might be. Again, this is the year that you do it. Again, he's 29 years old. I think you've admitted to everybody he ain't going anywhere. So why wouldn't you move him? Does anybody have any disagreement with that at all? You don't seem to have any disagreement. You just seem to be perfectly fine moving. I'm not calling you out for it, that you don't disagree. What's the backslide of that?
Well, I just keep thinking, now we're more in the, and you said you don't think they could get a first for him. Okay, a second. All right.
I think you can get a second rounder for Denzel.
For Denzel.
My phone just buzzed. Maybe people think I'm nuts on that.
So I just keep thinking of the Joe Thomas thing. Like, we get to say that we watched Joe Thomas in a Browns, a Browns jersey the whole career. The flip side of that is we could have easily gotten a first-round pick.
Well, and it's
at the
also,
end for 1 year.
We have to ask ourselves disturbing questions of why weren't we able to accomplish more with Joe? Why weren't we able to accomplish more with Miles? Now, we've gotten in our way several times, and that's explainable, but it doesn't make the question that we have to ask to each other any better. And I think that's why couldn't you have done it with Denzel Ward, who's been great on and off the field for you no matter what? So when they say hard no, I'm sorry. I actually hope Andrew Berry's lying to us when they say hard no. Like he'll have his press conference in just 1 hour from now. He'll be asked about it. If he says hard no, I hope he's lying, because I don't want just Denzel Ward gone. But yeah, if we're rewarding guys who have given a lot to this organization for a long period of time, let's reward him, and maybe somebody's willing to give up a second-round pick for him. 216-474-0092. I want to know whether or not you guys disagree with that. And are you warming up to it? Because I do think we're seeing the sea change online right now. I want to know if in real life we've seen it. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app.
It's Anthony Lima for Q's.
University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
There's only one place to hear breaking Browns news. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns, 92.3 The Fan.
Two 216-474-0092. Are you coming around on the trade? The phone's wishy-washy. Online, definitely a lot more people. But again, everybody's voice is 10 times amplified on the internet.
I wonder what they thought on how every analytics nerd throughout the day was like, the Browns cooked with this trade.
That brought me to a screeching halt because I had to recognize here. I'm glad you brought this up. I had to recognize that I was as a fan, way too emotional and way too close to the situation. And I'm talking like Gary in Shaker Heights was the same as Kenny Carman on the Fan. Because I saw it, and remember, you didn't hear it yesterday. When I got texted, the person who texted me, which we kind of started to beat around the bush, it's a West Coast team, someone in that building. So when I got texted from somebody in that building out there, it was, he's coming here and you are not going to like the return. That's exactly what was texted to me. So when I saw Jared Verse, who I know is a good go ahead. What were you going to say?
You said it as, he's coming here and you're not going to like the return. It's in text. It could have been, he's coming here, you're not going to like the return. Like, I think there's a lot of difference there.
This guy, I will tell you, this man speaks in a halting manner. So I felt that it was more...
Say his name then.
Frank Costanza, where you are not going to like the return. We're moving into a book of it. Like, it was like very like, he's coming here and you're not going to like it. He didn't say we fleeced you, but it was very strong. And so when you get one first-round pick and Jared Verse, which Jared Verse is a first-round pick, okay? And I knew I'd tell myself that to make myself feel better. It feels like the envelope's a little light, does it not? As a fan, at first blush. But then when you got all these people going, guys, Kenny, he's 30. He's 30. Like Nate Tice. Guys, he's 30 years old. Yeah, what do you got over there?
Tom Pelissero.
Pelissero, hit it.
I would argue for anybody saying you should have gotten 3 first-round picks for him, you did. Just if you add up the value on this trade, I would say you got that. And, oh, by the way, you already know effectively one of those first-round picks is Jared Verse, who that's not a lottery ticket. That's not a draft dart throw. That's a guy you already know is a really, really good player, even though, the odds of you finding the next Myles Garrett with any of this are pretty slim.
So I like what Tom Pelissero had to say. Well, you add up all the value, you actually get another first-round pick out of it. Okay, that's a way to look, but that's not what people are going to see. It's just not what they're going to see.
Instead of a Maserati, I got 5 Pontiacs.
Pontiacs were, come on, you got to have a car that's still being made.
They're fine cars.
My mom had one that wasn't very good back in the day, I got to tell you. But that was used, so maybe it was buyer beware.
A cool Maserati that'll run everything down.
But that thing ain't going to run in the wintertime. And it's still 3 years till we get the building.
We don't play in the true wintertime anyway.
That's a fair point. Well, listen, let me rationalize it this way. When I heard Charles Robinson, who will be on the station later on today, when I heard Nate Tice, who Andrew Siciliano went on with him, and I know he comes on the station. I think we're a little too early in the day for him because I think he lives in Vegas. And they were kind of talking about the haul. I go, yeah, maybe I'm just a little bit too close to the situation. Maybe I'm just a little too emotional about it. Considering I did not want to listen to you. I tried to put a moratorium on the conversation on the show earlier this winter. When you brought up how weird it was that, man, he's been to the Cavs game, so he's been in town. He hasn't talked to the coach, hasn't called the coach, hasn't seen him in person. I tried not to say it. It wasn't until last week where I started to go, uh-oh, and it was too late by then. It was flatly too late. And then, honestly, we talked about it Friday and yesterday, and there were a bunch of people going, you're still wasting our time. How dare you waste our time? Anything else? Talk Cavs, anything else. This is a non-issue. This is media-driven. And by the time Sunday came around when I'm being texted, I'm like, guys, it ain't media-driven. Like, I'm a fan, and this is going down. And I felt at first that it was not a great return. And I'm just looking at Denzel Ward now. I can make the return even better. I can get a second-round pick possibly out of Denzel Ward. But then again, I go, well, am I too close to the situation? Because Denzel Ward is 30 or 29. So if Denzel Ward is 29, what can I really get back from a cornerback who's had a much worse injury history than Myles Garrett? So now am I inflating his worth? Because we always think our players are worth way more than what they are. And when Elliott Wolf last year was saying, well, when some teams went 3 first-rounders for some of these guys, a lot of us took it as a shot towards the Browns that they might have been interested.
Are
so
there fans,
your mind starts to wander.
Hold on. Are there fans that would have rather had another first-round pick and maybe, change, whatever it would be, a first-round and other compensation instead of Verse? Or are people learning just how good he is?
Well, I think one, they're because he plays on the West Coast, I think they're learning just how good he is. All right? I do think that matters.
So you're saying
some
2
level.
first-round picks.
Yeah, and change.
Yeah.
I think there are. I honestly do think there are.
You think what?
That they would rather have 2 first-round picks than Verse.
Did they think they would draft somebody better than him, guaranteed?
Yeah, just from what I saw online, I do think there's a lot of people, because of the West Coast thing, you don't watch a ton of Rams football. We talked about it last year. Like, the Rams and the Seahawks played in the NFC Championship, and there wasn't a lot of them being featured in our time zone and in our area unless they played, a Sunday night football game.
I think it really is going that way. I think a lot of people, they don't, I try to consume as much as I can when it comes to the league. And so, we knew about Jared Verse and how good of a player he was. And when you start getting texts about it, it's like, okay, fine. Well, maybe that's, but I think a lot of people are going, all right, if I am making this move, one, I think there were a lot of people just didn't want to do it. Two, if they were going to do it, I think that they were thinking this better be for a quarterback. So we start to think quarterback. Jared Verse doesn't play quarterback. So now I have he's not Myles Garrett. He's a damn good player, but he's not Myles. So I have a lesser Myles, and I only have 1 pick at the back end of the first round. How much closer is that going to get me to the quarterback? I think that was the first reaction.
Well, here's how close.
Just an explanation about the emotions of what I think went through.
Man, I tried to make this case, and maybe people thought it was the most convoluted case. I've been saying since kind of day one of this year of having these discussions, it gets you closer just by virtue of Myles Garrett alone won you how many games last year?
5.
So you take Myles Garrett out of the equation. Even if Verse is really good, it's just that alone, without even having to trade around or put picks into the mix. They're going to be bad. Are they the worst team in the NFL? I don't think so today. Let's reconvene, 6 or 8 weeks into the season.
Well, I mean, but again, your reactions are all over the map because there's a lot of people saying, well, this doesn't matter that much. And I go, it matters greatly. It matters tremendously. Now, with Verse being here, let me say this. I think it gets us away from that conversation of the gut punch I was saying that was going to happen to the franchise if Myles were to be traded at this point of the year. Because now it's like, well, if Myles goes, and here we are talking about it because we're all the general managers, we're lifelong fans, right? So I want to get to a competitive level as soon as I possibly can. That's going to start and finish with the quarterback situation, right? Well, for a lot of guys, it's like, well, what are we, chopped liver here? What are we just going to go out there and lose? Jared Verse, I do think, is a great player who brings an element that Myles never brought. And that element was policing, being a sheriff in the locker room, being a true leader on a defense, being a dog. Jared Verse is a self-made man in so many ways. He started at Albany, ended up at Florida State, ended up with the Rams. So I don't think that he's a guy you have to worry about being mercurial or wondering what's going through his head. I think that he's going to be a tough guy going after things. So that I didn't account for. So I think that he's going to step in there day one, whether it be later on this week because it's only Tuesday, or when they go to mandatory minicamp, not veteran, but everybody, mandatory minicamp. He might be setting the tone right then and there.
Now, I've been on the lookout.
Which might still not matter this year, but it's going to pay off down the line. He'll still get his numbers. He'll still get his good play. He'll still make an impact. But if we don't have the quarterback, we just don't have the quarterback. But it really starts to resound once we get that guy.
Now we're waiting to see. Have we heard anything necessarily from Jared Verse? It doesn't seem like he tweets all that regularly. And on Instagram, he just, on his story, posted other people with the news, and then he basically said, hey, thanks, Rams, for the ride. I haven't seen him say a thing about the Browns yet. Has anybody seen that? I have not.
Well, you just love doing it, don't you?
What's that?
What do you want him to say?
No, I was
yet?
excited. I was excited to see his thoughts on this, and obviously we got a Myles Garrett statement about leaving one team.
How long do you give him before you're going to start making my life a living hell and questioning why he didn't say anything to Cleveland? I want to know. Be honest. I want to know how long you give Jared Verse before you start making this a problem.
My
for me.
expectation is we'll hear some fun things about being in the dog pound later today. Getting to play for the blue-collar fans of Cleveland. Sure, we'll get something today. I mean, he grew up in Dayton. Did you see that tweet yesterday from Adam Schefter?
I saw it from a lot of places.
Like, he's coming home. He's coming home. There's actually 2 other NFL teams closer to Dayton than the Cleveland Browns.
That's right. Yeah, hell.
The Bengals and the Colts. 3. It's close. I think it is close.
Who's the third team?
Maybe Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah, you go the other way.
It might be the same amount of time.
So I'm glad you brought this up. Now, this is totally this not a full right turn, but it's kind of a right turn. I saw the Schefter tweet. One, the AI picture of him in a Browns uniform was absolutely ridiculously terrible.
You could have had an art student, a high school art student, draw up a better photo.
I've accused this of Tony Romo before. When I thought Tony Romo just thinks we play in the same stadium and doesn't know the difference. When he didn't know the rivalry, I think there's times where he's in Cincinnati and he just thinks he's in Cleveland and doesn't know any better. How big do they think the city or the state is? Or I should say, do they think we're the size of Rhode Island? Do they know where Dayton is? Because from here to Pittsburgh's 2 hours. As Owen will tell you, from here to Toledo, 90 minutes?
Yeah, 90.
Yeah, going a little bit over the speed limit, 90 minutes. Columbus is 2 hours. Guys, it's a totally different world down there. I'd only been there a handful of times because it's so hard to get down there. I have no reason to get down there. So if you're from Dayton, I'm sorry, you might as well be from another planet to me. So
you have no thoughts of Cleveland.
Yeah. Like, unless you were, like, from here. Like, John Gruden. He said, didn't his dad work here? And then he was a Browns fan. Yeah. And then he ended up going to college at Dayton.
No, he would understand.
Okay, he would get
born
it.
in Tiffin or something.
Yes,
thank you. McVay would understand.
McVay would get it.
The Harbaughs would understand.
The Harbaughs would understand. But these are football lifers.
Yes.
I mean, Jared Verse is a young man. He was born in Dayton. Then he grew up in North Carolina.
Yeah, until high school, and then he was in the Philly area.
And then he went to Albany, which is beautiful for this time of year, I hear. And then he went to Florida State, which is also beautiful any time of year from what I've heard. I've never been to Tallahassee. The whole coming home thing, like, do they think it's like Shaker Heights?
I don't know. That one was odd to me.
Huh.
I do think the only time they're in Cleveland and they do a commute is driving to Canton. Hall of Fame weekend, right? Mm-hmm. 'Cause that's when they come do their Cleveland.
That's 60 miles.
But it's a car ride. I think they just assume everything's a car ride.
Dayton's far, man. You got to make a couple bathroom breaks.
There's a reason you don't generally go from Cleveland to Cincinnati on those tour stops. You go from Cleveland to Pittsburgh or Detroit.
Like, we got to put it in the parlance, and I hope they hear it. Like, high school football parlance for us, they've constantly complained down there in that Cincinnati-Dayton area about having to come all the way up here to play the high school football championships. Vice versa, there's a lot of people who are complaining that they have to go all the way to Dayton to do that. You don't go all the way to Canton or all the way to Akron or even Toledo.
And then Schefter acted like it was an outer ring suburb of Cleveland.
Dayton Heights.
Yeah, I don't know if they know the geography. Which, I got to tell you, I get Boston and New York mixed up about which one's further north all the time in my head. 216-474-0092. All right. We'll get to you guys when we come back. Have you warmed up to this trade? Because I think a lot of people are starting to go, all right, it is what it is. It's not the most fun we've ever had, but we got to start looking in a more, as Lima would say, a more positive direction. I don't think that today is a positive day. I think it's a day that we have to go through to get to a positive day. I'm not going to say it's a positive day for many, many years because the quarterback who's waking up and working out for a college football team right now that will probably go after, that guy's got to work out right now. And that's not going to be for a few more years. So it can be a positive day, but it also can be a day that you rue in 3 to 4 to 5 years. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on the Fan.
At Bank of
Talk at 12:20, both with Baskin and Phelps. Then SI.com's Albert Breer, 2:40 with the afternoon drive. It's all right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
One thing I want to say before we get going with some of these calls, like I said, when Miles was here, like people were bummed when the trade is first made. When Miles was here, yeah, you weren't good, but you still had somebody special. So it was like, yeah, we ain't good, but we're not like the Cardinals. Yeah, we're not good, but we're not like the Jets. We're not like the Dolphins. We're not, it wasn't one of them things. And it just made people feel a little bit better to have somebody that they were interested in, somebody that they really, really liked, somebody that you knew was a Hall of Famer, you could buy the jersey, whatever. Well, that's an emotional explanation. I'm getting all these people on social media. Well, what were they winning with them? Did you think they were going to win? No, I didn't. I said last year the timelines don't match up. And when he initially asked for a trade, when he initially demanded a trade, what did I say? Welcome to the rebuild. I didn't believe that they were going to sign him. I disagreed fully with Mary Kay about that. I did not believe they were going to sign him to an extension. So I understand. Now, I will tell you, this time around, considering the moves that they had made, considering what they have done, I did not believe that they were going to trade him. That, you got it. But when it comes to the common sense of making the trade, it's like, yeah, guys, like, they don't believe they have a quarterback. We can't sit there and pretend like they do anymore. I know that they post a bunch of stuff with Deshaun, and they'll continue to do it, and they'll post a bunch of stuff with Shador, but you ain't trading away these great players. If you ain't trading away the greatest player you ever have, you think you got a snowball's chance at it. We know what this is for, and that's acceptable. That's fine when it comes to the reasoning of it. But you can't say I'm not allowed to be bummed that I lost a future Hall of Famer. I'm more worried about the Browns than I am about the Rams and him going on and accomplishing other things. Like, yeah, you know what? Like, it'll suck. Let's be honest. It will suck if he ends up winning a Super Bowl and goes into the Hall of Fame as a L.A. Ram. But I've said it before. He's respected. He's an icon here. I think he's very well liked. He was very well liked. He did mostly the right thing, with the exception of we just get a little annoyed because we had to sit there and talk about speeding every once in a while. But he was a fine citizen, fine player, fine representative of the organization. But it wasn't like he was Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's beloved. Jose Ramirez is beloved in the city. And I just don't think that he was ever beloved for whatever reason. Now, part of this is me rationalizing letting him go.
So you don't think anybody will be
demeaning him.
Anybody in Cleveland will truly be rooting for him to win a Super Bowl?
Well, I don't know about right now, but I don't think that there's going to be people really mad if he's standing up there after they've won a Super Bowl with the L.A. Rams. Unless he just sits there and rips on Cleveland for whatever reason and rips on the fans. Like if he cuts a Hulk Hogan-style promo, then obviously that's different. But I don't have any ill will towards him. Like I said it before, and it's still the same. Like I was bickering with Pony on the phone. He's still nice to me, always nice to me. Gave us some great. You want to talk about show content? Just pulling that off. When he said what he said about Kevin Durant, I could have kissed him right there in the cheek in front of God and everybody. I loved it.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Loved it. I was willing to make it my father. That's how exciting it was. But when it comes to like him as a guy, great guy, not a rah-rah football guy like you would say. Maybe that bothers us. But, as a person, Miles is a great guy. I like Miles. I wish him well.
I was genuinely curious what he's capable of on that team with the amount of fourth quarters he's going to actually be on a winning side.
Because they're going to be throwing.
Where teams are going to be throwing on every down. They're going to be basically telegraphing that. And the pin in the ears back. You're going to hear that a lot about Myles Garrett this year. And we know what he's capable of. But, how crazy could it be? I've seen people throw out 30 sacks. All right. I mean, that's staying healthy, and that's everything going your way. But if he had 20-some sacks on this team and they're the best team in football, is he up for MVP? Could he be the first non-quarterback,
Last one to do it was what, Lawrence Taylor?
Yeah.
Was the last non-Q.
Is it crazy?
Wait, no, I mean, the last defensive player I think it was Lawrence Taylor. Was it Sean Alexander, the last non-quarterback? Was that long?
Adrian
Adrian Peterson. Exactly. Thank you.
Is that out of the realm? Is it in play for somebody as good and talented as him?
Depends. I mean, if Josh Allen has a great year, if Mahomes has a bounce back year, if Burrow has, Burrow had a fine year, but they just didn't go to the playoffs. Like, if they look like they're going to own the division, like I just think it's such a quarterback.
And he'd be competing with Stafford.
Award. And he's competing with his own quarterback there in that case.
But if he puts up these crazy, crazy numbers, and it's so clear that he is like the best football player.
Yeah. But my thought is, just going back to it, is I just think today's the wrong day to tell anybody that their emotions are ridiculous.
Well, I did see some people saying they will be rooting for him, and it's more of an anti-Browns thing.
And hey, you know what? That's on the Browns. I'm in no position to defend them.
Like he has been,
we had
for
9 years, the
somebody-
greatest defensive player in the league.
For somebody as dominant as he's been now for an extended period of time, for a long time in the NFL, he's kind of been in relative obscurity with the lack of feature games, the lack of Sunday night games, the lack of playoff games. That all is erased now. They're guaranteed at least 7 national TV games right now.
Well, maybe that's going to throw his rods and cones off and maybe it won't be as good.
Right.
There's something regulatory about that 1 o'clock, something that the body likes.
Yeah, knows
the
what time
routine.
to show up at the stadium every time.
Going to be, he's 30. The older you get, Miles, the more you like a routine, bud. Just saying.
You
ain't playing at 1 o'clock every day no more.
We also ever going to find out what happened down here at East 9?
What?
Now that he's no longer a Brown, are we going to find out what really happened there?
He got socked in the face in traffic and the guy ran off. What are you talking about?
You don't think that's the most bizarre story, like one of the more bizarre stories, that somebody looked at Myles Garrett and said, I
wish they could see him.
I'm going to take my chances. Here we go.
That's
a guy. That's a guy I'm going to start with.
I wish that you guys could see Owen's
Every
face.
day, Anthony, I not only grow more fond of you, but I'm also completely disgusted and want to distance myself from you. Every day.
Why is that a thought?
I don't know. We always get these true Hollywood stories when it comes to, celebrities or whatever. I feel like we've never gotten the real story out of that one. Or, like you said earlier in the show, are we going to finally get the audio to what happened with Mason
We'll
Rudolph?
never get the audio.
Why is there
we
so
will
much?
never get the audio.
Why is he a man of mystery?
I told
all
you
the
my
time?
theory a million times over. I said it on the air. I said it off air. We'll never get the audio, but he didn't just lose his mind out of nowhere, guys. Something was said. I don't give a damn. That guy, come on. We can be honest with each other now. Browns fans were honest with each other before. So I know a lot of people are expecting me to go, yeah, Mason Rudolph definitely didn't say it. No. Mason Rudolph said something. I believe wholeheartedly. I can't guarantee it because I don't have the tape, so I can't say. I have to say alleged. But I believe, it's my belief, yeah, that guy don't just fly off the handle for no good reason whatsoever.
Are we going to be able to see what happens?
He sacked him, and Mason Rudolph is like, you're a great player. Damn it! And
that's it.
Helmet. No, that's not how that went.
Is Myles going to leave when he sells that house? Is he going to leave the quarterback's cemetery, the gravestones? Is he going to leave them there or auction them off?
I mean, I would put that in my contingencies. If I don't get those headstones, I'm not buying this house.
Didn't the Tellers have like a rummage sale for charity or something like that?
Yes.
And maybe he will.
They sold off all their Browns gear.
And then Carly Teller, let everybody know about it.
Lit it all on fire on the internet.
No, I mean, yeah. 216-474-0092. You're certainly warm to the trade.
I would have been warmer to it a year ago. We waited a year. Now you got to see the sack record. So you might have got a little less in value, but Browns fans got to see the sack record.
You're big on it because of the Jared Verse piece?
Okay, I gotta be honest. When I saw, and there were mumblings. I remember Nick Wilson had brought up Verse, and I think they had heard it.
Yeah, credit where it's due.
And I'm not sure. Did they hear it from Breer, or was that their
I don't
own?
remember when it was, but it's been a week or two ago. Yeah.
So when you start to look at just how good of a player, and look at the advanced numbers. Yeah, you can look at sacks, and we all tend to flock to sacks. We did that with Myles early in his career too. Like we would talk. This is very interesting, and maybe this is a little bit instructive. There were years where we said, why doesn't Myles have more sacks? And the analytics gurus would say, no, Anthony, sacks are just the outcome. That's what happens at the end of the play, but it's about pass rush win rate. It's about pressures. And over time, that'll normalize. And boy, were they right. Like the pass rush win rate and the amount of times being able to get to the quarterback, eventually they were right. Like He was underperforming in sack total, but he was getting a little unlucky over time. Maybe that's happening with Verse. For those people that are like, he only has 12 sacks in 2 years, look at all the other numbers. They do point to a player who is better than his sack total. So something to keep your eye on.
Well, again, but if we're losing games in the fourth quarter, it's the same situation as Miles.
And he's not going to get the double teams that Miles got most likely.
No, but
unless he takes a step. Maybe he gets better. He could get better. Miles got better.
But if you get to that point where it's going to be the same argument, like people watch it and they see in the fourth quarter you're down by 10, which is 2 possessions, and you and I and Owen and anybody who knows what they're doing sit there going, yeah, you're going to try to score, but you're really going to try to run the ball, and you're going to run the ball away from Myles Garrett and try to eat up that clock. And people are, where's Myles? He disappeared again in the fourth quarter. Well, yeah, they're going to make him disappear in the fourth quarter if they're down by 10 and 2 possessions.
Now, I will say, quarterback pressure since 2024, Micah Parsons, number 1, 119. Myles Garrett, number 2, 109. Jared Verse, number 3, with 99.
Looking better already. Trade's looking better already. 25 years old.
And that's a number that's been thrown out in Miles' defense every day that people say, well, he didn't do anything in this game.
Get Watson off the books after this year. Pay Jared Verse some money. Boy, we're laughing. Guys, we're laughing. Maybe it is a positive day. All right, you know what? Yeah. And maybe it is a positive day.
It was 1950 in the
Yeah. Sometimes you ain't got nothing else to do but just play the music and have a smiling face.
And apparently, Jared Verse on social media has changed his profile to linebacker. Oh, wait, linebacker?
He's an outside linebacker.
It says Cleveland Browns.
Here you go. Now, you wondered, Tone, now you got it.
Boom. Boom.
It's like Susan Waldman and Roger Clemens all over again. You don't got to worry who's playing defensive end now, Tone.
It's right there.
Telling you, man. All you got to do after this is get the right quarterback. We're all laughing. Shouldn't be hard. Yeah, we've been looking for one since Bernie, and we kind of sort of had one, and everybody messed that up. But we'll learn that lesson. We'll learn from that lesson. We'll be fine.
A wise man once said, fool me once.
I mean, I'll be as dead honest with you guys as I can. I have that picture I took of Axel when he was just like a little toddler, like when he could barely sit up. And I had that Browns jersey, and Johnny Manziel was playing, and I'm going, man, I'm glad you don't have to be cognizant of any of this crap. And here he is at 10 years old, and we've had a couple of good times, but there have been a lot of bad times. And I'm going, man, I am living the reality that you guys all warned me about years ago. Got to get this right now. Got to get this right. I told you, he dropped that fork, looked disgusted when I told him on Sunday. It was bad. Bad day. A lot of guys my age are dealing with it. Chris and Euclid, hello.
Kenny, how you doing? Anthony, how you doing? Long-time listener.
Doing better than I was earlier this morning. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna try to brighten your day up a little more. I really don't think, like, as great as Miles was, best Brown in my lifetime, he had a lot of glaring weaknesses, fellas. Like the stuff inside the locker room. He's a selfish guy. Not to say he's Will Chamberlain, but as great as he was, there's a lot of lacking areas that I think Verse is really going to harp on and really help this team with. The gap, as what's his name just said, with the pressures, like there's a big gap between the two, but I think he's going to make up in a lot of those other areas and those deficiencies that Miles just wasn't there for.
I sure hope so. I really hope so, because that was one of the things that, I always felt, it's like, well, you need the player, you need the great player. Like Jared Verse is a really good player, all right, and you know that, and we know that, and I do think he should be better in the locker room, because there were a couple times, Chris. And it does soften the blow a little bit, and thank you very much for the call. It does make it a little bit better for the simple fact that, like, I thought that Miles would flirt with it every now and then, that leadership. Who was the guy that had the problems and ended up selling shoes on the internet? Who we took in the 4th round? Do you remember him? Perry and Winfrey. He ain't paying attention. I could ask the wall. He wasn't paying attention to me. He's ready to wrap up the segment. But Perry and Winfrey had problems, right? Winfrey had problems. And remember, Miles was, and we were like, yeah, we tried to take him under the wing, try to show him how to be a professional. I'm like, whoa, this is some strong stuff being said. Here we are. And then, like, you got the clowny stuff. Okay, when Mary Kay's right and it's either him or me when it comes to the Baker Mayfield stuff, you better take it. And he never did. He never did. If there's a criticism, that's a criticism. Fine player, great player, wonderful player. But that was the one thing. I don't think that I hope that Jared Verse is going to be like that. I don't think he is. My whole worry, though, is that, man, if they can't get this thing going in the right direction, losing has a tendency to beat people down. And how's he going to take that? Because he was at Florida State. I understand they ended up on their ass by the time he was gone? I think they had their final good year by the time he was gone. And he's been with the Rams, and they obviously hold a high standard. He's going to have to bring his standard and instill it with this team. Him and Carson Schlesinger got a lot of work they got to do. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
Brad Evans here to help you beat the...
quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
There's only one place to hear breaking Browns news. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
Lima, you're warmed up to it. I've warmed up to it. Let's see what Maurice in the Bay Area thinks. He's listening on the free Odyssey app. Hello, Maurice. Maurice. That's the end of Maurice. Clay in Kentucky. Hello.
Hey, fellas. A couple quick things here. I'm a fan of the trade. I understand the grief that we lost a Hall of Famer, but we had him for 9 years. Some of the most memorable, enjoyable games. And would we rather be the Cowboys having traded Parsons at, what was he, 26 when they traded him? 27 maybe at the oldest? I mean, that seems like a Browns thing to do, would be to trade him when he was 26. He endured a lot of losing. He deserves to win. I'll absolutely be rooting for him. One other thing real quick. Can we just get over the Deshaun Watson trade? Our organization took a shot. It didn't work. I get it, but they didn't spend my money, and we've had a lot of first-round draft picks miss. We tried. I get that he's still around, but are we going to get over it at some point?
Well, no. I think we're restarting it again. I really do.
Well, until they win. And when they win,
that's fair.
When they win, if they win with him, some of that will go.
You think they're going to win enough to cancel out everything else that happened, though?
I don't think so either. I don't think, and I don't.
Not this year.
Honestly, I would rather just move on. But also, like, I live in Kentucky, so I'm amongst the Bengals folks down here. Would I rather be the Bengals who they lucked into Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they still, they're not making the swings, they're not taking the swings. We haven't lucked into the quarterback. I get that. We had, Baker, and you guys have been talking about that, but
yeah, they went to the Super Bowl though.
They did.
I know. I get it, but. I probably could have called offense for him that year, and now they still can't get over Zach Taylor, and they're not spending the money. So I'm a glass half full guy, I guess, but I appreciate the swing they took with Watson, and I'm past it, and I'm also a fan of the Garrett trade.
Well, you are. I'll tell you this, Clay. Eventually, you're going to be, and thank you for the call. Eventually, you'll be right. Right now, you are in the vast minority of it. As of right now, I don't think a lot of people anticipate that Deshaun Watson is going to play well. By the way, Andrew Berry coming up in like 10 minutes live on the Fan. I don't think anybody's anticipating that Deshaun Watson is going to play very well at all. And I think for a lot of folks, this is just more to the storm. The clouds will lighten up once he's no longer here. Once he's no longer here, I think that there will be a fresh start for a lot of people. I mean, I was getting texts during the show from a lot of fans, Tone. They were like, yeah, you guys are talking about what's the point of even playing Deshaun Watson? Why not just cut him? It's like, well, I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't think they're trying to pay off the money. I think they're just trying to. I think that Todd Monken's trying to win games, and I don't think that they went and they signed him to that contract just to make everybody mad. But here we are, and this is still more fallout of it. The day after a trade like that is not the day to ask whether or not the swords are down. The day they make the playoffs is maybe the day to ask whether or not we've dropped our swords on that trade. Let me go to Sam in Akron. Hello, Sam.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, Sam, go ahead.
All right. Well, I just feel like it's a good trade. The value we got back and everything else, the compensation is a good trade. And if everybody really think about it, Jared Verse is younger. He's 25. You're getting a guy who hasn't even hit his prime yet, who the Rams had estimated to be worth 2 first-round picks. So while we all thinking we're downgrading, it might be actually an improvement for the defense long run.
I don't know if it's going to be an improvement in the long run.
Well, that just depends when you think Miles' drop-off is going to occur.
Because I don't know if he's dropping off for another 5 years. And Sam, thank you for the call. But it makes it more palatable. Because, one, you don't have to pay him until the end of next year. By the end of next year, we'll probably have Deshaun Watson off the books, right? So it makes it easier to pay. I know there's dead money there and everything. But it makes it obviously easier to pay Jared Verse at the end of next year. So you have a year of team control to play it out, right? Then you probably are drafting your quarterback. So if you draft your quarterback, then I think a lot of people are going, okay, now we can finally start to breathe again as fans. But there's going to be a lot of pressure, and this is where Andrew Berry doesn't get let off on this, is there's going to be a lot of pressure on Carson Schlesinger to uphold the type of season that he had last year. There's going to be a lot of pressure on these guys like Jared Verse to have a type of season that we're hoping for. Not Myles Garrett, but a real great type of season. To see some improvement on the offense there. And when that happens, I understand that you're going to win a few games. Your strength of schedule isn't that great, but that's something that we're going to have to deal with, because I want to see guys play better, because this is a big risk for Andrew Berry. You've made this trade. You've agreed to this trade. Do you believe your boss that you will be here to then select the quarterback? Because if you select a quarterback, boy, and he's the right one, you tell a great story for a long time. If you get fired at the end of this year, your Wikipedia is just the guy. Because I don't know how many guys get second chances to be general managers. Not a ton. He might get a second chance. He's still young enough, but your Wikipedia says you traded for Deshaun Watson and traded away Myles Garrett. I mean, you got to be praying you get a chance to draft that quarterback.
It's just
Andrew Berry.
The one most clearly marketable guy they got on the team who just had the sack record is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Just had one of the great defensive years in the sports history. Your owner signed off on it.
He did.
And I think a lot of people assumed that would not be the case and that the GM was not going to be here a long time.
Coming up at 10 o'clock, Andrew Berry, he will have his press conference after this Myles Garrett trade. You'll hear from him. Also, Albert Breer, 2:20 this morning. You will hear from Charles Robinson from Yahoo on Basket and Phelps. You will hear
Breer's at 2:40 this afternoon.
Albert Breer.
2:20 this morning.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry. And then at 12:40 or somewhere around there, you will have Mike Florio. So keep it here the whole day. 92.3 The Fan. Andrew Berry in moments on The Fan. Hey, sounds good.
Where's your entourage now?
Cool, I got